Hello! It is I, Took, your storybook traveler, and my sister little dear Quill. Hey. I have been summoned. Hi, Lord Wilt. Hello, doll-faced Toodles. Hope you had a good day today. My day was not too bad. I got like 3 hours of sleep, which was that was definitely bad. But other than that, you know, once I woke up, it takes me like, I don't know, when I get that little sleep, it takes me like a couple hours to actually wake up. The good news is that first couple of hours at work or after I wake up, wake up, quote unquote, that goes by really quick because I'm barely cognizant at all. So it's a pretty good upside. And honestly, it's tempting to just have so little sleep, so that just keeps happening. But it really hurts my productivity doing that. So I really got to rein that in. So I hope you've been having a good one yourself. Unfortunately, it seems like we're now in that off week where no anime episodes are coming out. It's a shame. It's a shame. Oh no, I should be getting at least 8 hours of sleep. Yeah. Most weeks, I'd say my average of sleep is about during the week outside of the weekend, I get like 3 hours average. Some days are 2, some days are 4. It's very rarely higher than that. And then I catch up on the weekend. I get like 14 hours of sleep on the weekend, maybe more. This is also why I'm not really productive on the weekend, even though that's like the time to be productive. It's a really bad habit. I know it. I should be getting at least 6 hours of sleep. Or at the very least 5. I'm bargaining with myself. Dude. I can function with that little, mostly, eventually. I wake up. But yeah, when I get to the point where I can at least handle a couple, like 3-4 days in a row, but when you get to that like 4th or 5th day, then it really starts to hit ya. Oh man. And then you lose like a whole day of the weekend by sleeping in, and that's honestly the worst part about it. I lose that entire first day of the weekend by just sleeping through it all, so it's like it's basically a work day anyway. I don't have any extra time. Meh. Oh man. Not to mention, it absolutely kills me eventually. Like, I'm pretty sure this is slowly destroying my brain's whole nervous system by just having so little sleep. I think there's like a pretty big correlation between people who have not enough sleep and people who die early on in life. So, I'm pretty sure I'm slowly killing myself. But you know what? That's fine. Hey, no one will hate you for getting sleep. Well, I do it. Well, I don't say I do it. It's not really like, I guess it is a conscious effort. I mean, it's not like I really would like to sleep more is the thing. But I just get so caught up in things. And most importantly, I just don't want the next day to arrive, you know? If I go to sleep, that means I'm inviting the next day upon me, because I will instantly be teleported to it. Whereas if I stay up, that's a little bit of extra time per day, and it's free time where I can do whatever I want. I can like laze around, watch streams, look up stuff, look up videos. No one here from sleep deprivation. Well, the invisible hand of death is slowly killing me from sleep deprivation. I think there is a pretty big correlation there between not getting enough sleep and, you know, dying early on in life. So, it's definitely not healthy. I mean, I'll admit that, but I mean, I can't say I'm like a perfectly healthy individual. I don't think most people are. I think most people take their little shortcuts in life. Most people aren't being as healthy as they could be, even though like the super health gurus, there are probably ways that they can be even healthier, but everyone has their own little cheats, and me staying up late is definitely a cheat that's gone too far, I think. Oh, man. Yeah, to better myself, I should definitely get at least 5 hours of sleep, because 5 hours is still enough. It's a workable amount. I can still catch up on the weekend without absolutely ruining my weekend. And that's like enough for me to kind of catch my breath at least. That's a workable amount. And it still gives me plenty of time. At least it should. I use scissors to stop the hand. Nice. I think one time, I swear to God, when I was around, speaking of like stopping the hand of death, I don't know, I've had some weird experiences when I've been around, like, my cats that were, like, passing away or, like, basically on death's door, and you just kind of get that feeling around you, you know? I don't know. Sometimes you almost, like, feel like there is an actual presence of death, and you kind of get where that mythos of the Grim Reaper comes from. It is a romantic idea to think about. not much logic to it, but I do appreciate the romanticism and the idea of there being a singular figure. Hello there, Pixel Foxy. How are you today? I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm gonna see how it goes. It might be awful, it might be terrible, it might be a little interesting. I don't know. Instead of my usual tactic of playing game tonight, I thought I would read stories. Specifically, the stories on the Space Battle Forum. I'm, of course, open to reading other stories online as well, but I don't know of many other places. Like, I mean, there are other places, but those are more places for, like either super serious stories, or it's like Reddit. So, I don't know. I feel like this forum is probably a nice little mine to get like good bite-sized chunks to really dig into like some quirky stories where people really let their ideas flow and then like see people's reactions. You know, it might be interesting to go in, see what people are writing. And that way I can get like the first chapter, the first little bit, and then we can like get a little review of how it went and then move on to the next like first little chapter post and see how things are. Yeah, I get it. The things around you feel a little colder and less colors. Yeah, it's a little odd feeling. That's the idea behind tonight. Also, tonight will probably be a shorter stream outside of my own hesitation regarding anything that goes outside my norm. I get way too into my norm, man. Once I get into my rhythm, it's really hard to get myself out of it and feel comfortable. I just get really comfortable inside my rhythm, and that's like a bad part of my quality. I mean, I guess it could be good in some ways, in some form, but it really hurts when you try to improve yourself. So I'm gonna be stretching myself out of it. I'm gonna be outside my comfort zone, I guess you could say. I am having fun playing Hollow Knight, of course. I just don't like to spam those types of games. I'm not the type of person that's gonna do nothing but nothing of the new game, everything, like all the time in a row, you know? I feel like, I'm not sure if that's really good for streaming. I mean, I did that like at the very start when I first streamed when I played Signalus, and I mean, but that was like a shorter game. I could knock that one out real quick, and that was pretty fun, but I haven't done that like since. Well, I did it for Elden Ring for a while, and then I realized, yeah, I realized Elden Ring was such a long game that if I did that with Elden Ring where I just did it nonstop, it would literally just be nonstop for months, Elden Ring. So, yeah, it was a pretty quick pivot from that. So I got it like 2 times a week pretty much in streams. I think I'm a bit too rigid to that schedule, but otherwise, I think it's like a pretty good trade-off. But anyway, putting the sleep deprivation aside, I'm revamping a board game. Ooh, a board game. What are you doing? I remember you talking about a board game yesterday. What was the conversation around that? Was it like, oh yeah, it was a Dungeon Overlord. I was talking about like Facebook games. That's right. That's when you made that comment about the board game. Did it have something to do with that, or were you just talking about the board game? Let's see. What else is going on? There was a thought inside my head. I swear to God, there was. No anime today, so it wasn't that. I swear, what was it inside my head? I'm halfway through my Wizard Hat. Oh, hell yeah. Nice. You gonna wear it for Halloween? You gonna be a whole crochet wizard for Halloween? That could be pretty fun. It's called Tunnel Weaver in the board game that I was talking about yesterday. What, you gave me an idea of what I'm gonna make next, of what next one I'm gonna make. Ah, okay. Nice. What idea specifically? I think at the time I was gushing about Dungeon Overlord, the idea of dungeon management, everyone being in their own little mountains and basic stuff. Also, we got into like Farmville. I never got into that restaurant game. Like, let me show you this real quick. I kind of want to show this as well. There was a restaurant game for Facebook that was actually really nice too. All right, let's see. I guess I could just pull up a YouTube thing. All right. Facebook, Restaurant City, that's what it was called, yes. There's a video from 15 years ago. Wait, there's a whole like 23-minute video on this called the Facebook game that EA wiped from the internet. What? Hang on a second. Best of luck, have fun. Thank you, Taco. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, it sounds interesting to make, so I'll probably start in 3 to 6 months. Ooh, hell yeah. Thanks. No problem at all. I really wish that Dungeon Overlord could get a proper emulation someday, but I'll take a board game too. Yeah, that's fine, as long as its memory lives on in some fashion, I guess. And where's my source for like browser stuff? Here we go. Is that the browser? Yes, it is. All right, let's see. Studio mode, make sure this isn't. Okay, that works, I think. Yeah, it's fine. Whoop. let's go. Yeah, see, this is like the whole I'll have to adjust like the sides and all that. That's always what's really annoying. The Facebook game that EA wiped from the internet. I have not heard any of this. You guys want to just watch this real quick? I'm kind of curious. I'm actually kind of curious about this.
I think everyone has those.
Hang on. All right, let's get in close here. There we go. Nope.
I think everyone has those few things that they grew up with that they still hold dear to themselves years down the line. They may not be the best product, but when you're introduced to something at a young age and enjoy it, it's hard. The game no longer existed. In fact, with Bowling with Buddies and Geography Challenge releasing in a similar vein afterwards.
Yeah, okay, he gets into Restaurant City over here.
So, very depending on who you ask, but there's a sizable chunk of people who would
now
say
it's getting cut off on the sides. Hang on, I got it. Hang on, crop. There we go. All right. I'll have to do 550, maybe 50. There we go. Okay, that's perfect.
Game that was ever on Facebook. After watching someone play this quirky little restaurant game, I was going to get an account one way or another, and I'm not going to disclose how.
There we go. Okay.
You got to choose who did what and in what.
See, you had a lot of creativity with this game.
The better your restaurant performed and the higher
you could see other people's restaurants, you could visit them.
Which would net you extra cash and XP.
You could really customize all your employees, the backgrounds, the sushi. You would have to like gradually get through and get new recipes. Okay, here we go.
On your menu. It should also be noted that whilst money would accrue while you were offline, XP would only increase while you were actively online, regardless of whether you were tabbed in or otherwise. Each day you'd be given one free ingredient for logging in,
I
and
remember
could
the free
complete a food-related quiz to gain another if you answered correctly. Spending accrued in-game currency to buy a selection of 3 random items from the grocer was also an option. With said ingredients, you could unlock and level up dishes to serve.
It took a long time to unlock anything in this game.
And cash whenever it was made.
Hello.
These categories consisted of starters, mains, desserts, and drinks. If you ever had the issue
today? I'm just watching a video about this old Facebook game I played called Restaurant City as well. Because apparently this video is titled the Facebook game that EA wiped from the internet, which I think is a bit a dramatic title, and I didn't know about it. I have skipped through a little bit because I kind of wanted to see the gameplay, but I don't know how EA wiped it out. I know, like... Oh, hang on. The filters are still slightly off a bit here. I was like 30 behind your life for some reason. No worries, man. I don't know. Yeah, there's a bit of a delay issue sometimes. Oh, sometimes I think I kind of know what it is, at least. I think sometimes it's just a bit... when you're on, like, that start screen, it takes a little bit longer to update and realize, oh, hey, this should be live, and starts to go. Yeah. But Tunnel Weaver is based on players being stuck in a cave and being hunted down by creatures that... 30 seconds here. Being hunted down by creatures that the Tunnel Weaver is controlling. Okay, that sounds like a fun premise. Now that's interesting, and my day has been okay. I had some pound cake for breakfast and ate some tamales for lunch. Ooh, hell yeah. What is pound cake, actually? Pound cake. The best pound cake is a type of cake traditionally made with a pound of each 4 ingredients. Flour, butter, eggs, and sugar. Okay. I mean, that seems like a pretty much an egg cake. Pound cakes are generally baked in either a loaf pan or a bundt mold. Oh, dusted or powdered sugar. Lightly glazed with syrup with a coat of icing or whipped cream. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll agree to that.
Right ingredients for a recipe. You could also trade with people.
I wish this guy had chapters on his videos so I could go skip to the part where it's like what EA did.
Your friends' restaurants. The game would actively show you how you stacked up to everyone.
Surprisingly, a large amount of customization for like a Facebook game,
which certainly led to some interesting interactions. Now, last but not least, premium currency was available to buy for special themed items from the store, some of which had a unique attribute like quicker cooking time or higher customer patience. There were a few other things added over the years, such as a garden to grow crops in, as go on and do. And this is my own personal opinion, but I think the game respected the player a lot more than what other games would do a few years down the line.
Compared to gacha games of today, I can absolutely agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Energy meter that limited what you could do unless you were willing to fork over cash. The premium items were still present if you wanted them, but you could still play the game with a plentiful amount of customization even if you didn't want to pay those.
It just
I think
took
the
you
thing that's
forever.
always stuck in my head the most is that compared to other Facebook games, when someone would come in, they'd seat themselves and then the chefs would just
It
automatically
did actually
prepare
get
whatever
really
you had on the
laggy too.
menu.
It like really
And then
felt
the
they
waiters would
pushed
go
the
collect the
Facebook
dishes
browser
and then
in
get you XP.
to
Or
like
you could help
its
the waiters by
maximum.
collecting the dishes for them by clicking on them. But then if you were to compare it to the other restaurant and cafe based games on the site, there would always be some arbitrary timer when it came to cooking a dish. Or you could only open for so long on the free thing and you need premium currency to open
It
for
was
longer.
actually kind of nice.
Stuff
to
that
free
would
players.
essentially
compared
incentivize
to
you to
others.
go and give them. And EA pokes their nose in and inevitably
Oh, hang on.
money.
We're
purely
finally getting to
because
the
they
EA part.
respected me and didn't try to scam the shit out of me, as like every other game on the site was trying to do at a point in time. Which I just and inevitably bought.
Okay,
Seeing the money that this new field was raking in, EA pokes their nose in and inevitably bought Playfish and all their properties.
Oh, that's how it happened. So Playfish published the games or had a hand in it. EA bought them and everything went to shit. Wow, that's a classic story, ain't there?
The end of 2009.
Mystery solved.
Now, initially, things weren't shit.
It's just an eventuality.
I assume the games they had in development before it was like
Super sweet, super at the lag. Yeah, decorations were my least favorite things. I mean, it was kind of the purpose of this because, like, you could see other people's like restaurants as well, and it was really cool.
And it just made bad games from them. I'm like,
It looked nice. It was very simple to do too. It wasn't like a much.
Enjoy them.
It wasn't very
I don't
in
think
depth.
other people did either, because I remember distinctly laughing at the fact that their older games still had higher player counts than their newer games, which was funny, because even when I was like 9 up
Okay,
and down,
get to the point.
they can focus more on their FIFA web game. No company's that fucking evil, are they?
The decision to retire old games is never easy. We realise this may be disappointing to fans, but in order to focus our efforts in developing new and exciting titles, as well as bring new content and updates to our existing popular
Now, okay, so yeah, he's talking about like how they move talent away from these Facebook games and basically put them on the EA titles, which I do agree. Kind of shitty decision by EA, but also I'm gonna like play devil's advocate a little bit. As someone who played these Facebook games, they were already kind of barely on the cusp of popularity. It's not like Facebook was popular, but it's not like the place players went to play games. People knew Farmville, and that was just about it. People didn't play much else besides that, actually. It was like on the cusp. You basically had like grandparents. If people really wanted to play games, they'd play, actual PC games. If they were on their phone, then they couldn't even play these games because phones weren't really powerful enough at the time. That's why you had to like get dedicated mobile apps just to collect resources and nothing else for like Dungeon Overlord. So that didn't come into play later. And once phones kind of really started going in with like smartphones, you started getting like those, then they started making games specifically for them. You would get I forget, but like not those types of games. Not in-depth customization of restaurant games that respect your free time. No. Things would get much, much worse because people realize just how much people are willing to put up with, these game developers. And so, yeah, these kind of fell out of fashion because they just lost their niche in the market. The people that really like to play games, well, they'll just be happy playing actually full-fledged PC games. The people that don't care and just want something to occupy their free time, well, they'll be happy playing even worse, pay-to-play games on your phone that are just like the dumbest shit ever. So, yeah, they immediately kind of lost its place, which is unfortunate because there were some real gems in there. All right, lore is that the players and creatures were middle schoolers, and the Tunnel Weaver were their classmate. The players being his friends, and the creature being the bullies. Okay, I can see that. That could be like a fun little twist on it. Like a little subtext twist on it. You're being chased by the old bullies, your old clothed classmates and all that. I get it. On the topic lore, the Slime Rancher update today has added some new lore. GG's from the future, and is the reason why the Grand Teleporters to Glass Desert is destroyed. I see. What's this? Oh. Hello, DX Nomad. How are you tonight? I'm just gonna do a stream talking about going through the Space Battles forum and talking about some different stories on there. But I kind of got sidetracked and like ended up talking about like Facebook games again because I forgot I didn't actually do a good talk on Restaurant City, which was like one of the main games I played back in the day too. He would bottle up his rage and let it out in the cave. On day, he didn't show up until at school for a few months, until he showed up in school courtyard, but a little different, like death stained him. Alright. I see it. Let's see. Let me just put this up real quick. This'll... Because I just showed a screenshot before, so let me actually pull up Total Biscuit's Dungeon Overlord video. Is it not here? I guess I should be actually doing his title. WTF is Dungeon Overlord 14 years ago. It's been so long. Oh, I miss the old intro, man. I miss this, man. Nice time to get cozy and vibe, hopefully. I'm just kind of in my pre-main topic yap, I guess you could say.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is...
Okay, here we go. He would make all the bullies follow him into the cave, where he would collapse the cave entrance and basically control the cave with his rage, killing all the bulls in horrific ways. Oh, I see.
Total Biscuit. Oh my god, it's Farmville.
I miss his
No,
voice,
not really.
man.
It is a Facebook game.
No
I'll give you a look
720p
at it,
option.
because
This
that
is just
shit
a
can
video.
be done.
The whole video is big
Facebook
black bars.
games
Yeah.
Are intriguing to me.
It's
And
a
the
nice
reason they're
little peek
intriguing
back
to
into the
me
days of
is
Facebook games. The
because
opinions of people. Back when...
in the day,
Yeah.
we used to have things that were quite like Facebook games, but they were
Actual
strictly
perspective
reserved
from
for
back in the
hardcore
day when
gamers.
these
They
were in its
basically
heyday.
browser-based games, yeah? Before MMOs really took off and before you
Yeah,
could
they
do
were
all sorts of
basically just
things,
browser-based games.
You are often limited to things
Which
like
definitely fell out of
browser-based
favor at a
strategy
certain
games
point.
that
It's
occurred
still
over a long
used,
period of
but
time. And those kind of
they
games
kind of hung
were,
around in
again,
Japan
strictly
for a
reserved
little
for
while
hardcore
longer, but they're
gamers.
starting to
A lot
fall
of
off hard
gamers
now.
played them.
Now that
I'm
more
thinking
people in
of things
Japan are
like
getting actual
Planetarian.
PCs.
I'm
Japan is
thinking of
kind of going
things
through that
like
same
Droid
phase
Arena.
transition
I'm
now,
thinking
except
of
way,
things
way
like
later.
Cybots, Bushtarian.
But yes, you can see all the different areas. You have the mining area where your goblins get gold. You have the upgraded mining area. So he has got the upgraded one like right here. He's got the sentry area, the little guard tower. He's got the tavern over there where they get their
Empire
food.
Wars, things like that.
Then, of
That's still-
course, you can basically build out wherever you want to over this lava, but you only have like so
Like-
many tiles as well.
And then the concept was taken, and as technology advanced, specifically with browser.
Oh. And I have to say, Gigi, I know she's trying to save the planet, but could she have chosen a better resource that's required to save the planet? He won't let them die, though. He wanted more revenge, so he kept them alive and made them his puppets. Fearless there, the characters now high school. So on the last day of high school, we come back and see the cave entrance now. I'm like, wow, this tabletop game you got going on has a lot of backstory to it.
Browser-based stuff. Facebook actually became
Oh, yeah, and then you have the rest area. Now, the rest area was actually very important to have near the entrance so that you would have, like, there was a tactic because you couldn't control where your defenders would show up, you know, where they would technically be, where they'd path around when you would get raided. That was just, like, completely out of your control. So you'd have to arrange your base in a way where it's more likely that, like, this isn't even, like, a good base setup. But it'd be more likely that his melee characters would be near the entrance, and like range characters like around a corner where they could pepper the raiders, you know? Something like that would be more, you know, meta. This being so open is actually pretty bad. He's got his little like planetarium over here, and that's like the wizard zone, his ranged wizards, his ranged magic users. And that's pretty bad to have so near the entrance.
one of the venues for games like this.
But yeah, this is like the
However,
food collection area where you collect your
the
food.
focus shifted and the demographic shifted.
This is
We
his
have
vault
things
where he like
Farmville,
stores all of his items.
which are blatantly not aimed at hardcore gamers. It's actually quite the opposite. Huh. Isn't that a strange turn of events?
Oh yeah, browser-based games used to be like more for hardcore games because it'd be like old MMOs back in the day, very, very back in the day. But that was a bit before my time, even.
Range switch over the course of a decade. We get a concept which was strictly hardcore.
And one of the effects the
all
plasma
way-
core is
all
having
the
on
way
far
around to
future,
casual.
far range,
So,
and has turned all the plant
I
life
have
to
not
metal and
played a
turned
lot
the
of
water
Facebook
across the planet
games
glass.
as
That
kind of
seems
a direct
pretty
result of
bad.
that, because a lot of them weren't really marketed to me, except for this one. Now, this is Dungeon Overlord, and it's brought to you by the guys over at Sony Online Entertainment, and it is
Yeah.
significantly more complicated.
Wait, Sony Online Entertainment? Oh, I didn't realize Sony was actually involved with this. Oh, it's been a
than
while.
things like Farmville, although the principles kind of remain the
I just
same.
thought it was like an
It's
indie
also
game.
got a much cooler theme, because it's basically Dungeon Keeper in a browser.
Basically, except, I don't know, I like the art style of this one better. It feels like not necessarily so over the top in its gore, and you get more like free roam and like your base set up. You have it's a bit more, it has multiplayer focus, and you can raid other people's bases. You can expand to other bases as well, but still be like a shared resource connection. Like there's it has its own distinct flavor. It's not just Dungeon Overlord in the browser. Or Dungeon Keeper in the browser. I know this because I looked up Dungeon Keeper because I wanted a replacement for Dungeon Overlord when Dungeon Overlord's gone.
That's what it is at any rate.
Shut
That's
up.
what it's blatantly trying to be.
It is trying to be it. That's where it gets its inspiration
Very,
from.
very obvious. I mean, if we have a look at it, say, there's the den. You know, you used to have a den in that as well. Various different beds.
Maybe I should try
various different
Dungeon Keeper
creatures
on stream
this game.
someday.
You have to actually craft the beds in order to attract the creatures.
And facing
as
the
opposed
entire
to,
planet in
say,
and out
just
of
having
reality.
rooms as prerequisites,
They would end the
admittedly,
cave
that is also
and
part of
immediately
it.
get trapped
There's
inside
your
some courses
library,
of
and
their
course, the
one
walks go in the
classmate with the
library,
tunnel
just
weaver
like
being in the middle,
Dungeon
smiling, but
Keeper.
also
We've got a
being
guard room,
decrepit,
we have
more
a
like a statue.
storage room. Again, that's not something that was really in
Oh,
Dungeon
and then
Keeper.
you do
This
like
game's
the
got an awful
game
lot
of
more
like trying to
resource
run away.
management than Dungeon Keeper had. A huge amount of stuff, as well as a fairly advanced crafting system beyond what we saw in Dungeon Keeper. There's your workshop.
Yeah.
Your alchemy,
Man,
your
this is so
mining going
nostalgic
on right
playing all
here,
this
various
again.
different kinds of resources being mined, and of course your dungeon heart, vault, right there in the middle, which is
Let me just skip
where
through
we
real quick, just to get to the highlight points.
say this node right here.
Oh,
here,
this is his.
bloody scrolling.
Oh, wait, this is
It's a
his
flat
other
by
dungeon
you.
he's got.
Actually,
When did he switch?
like say if I'm mining this stuff, what I'm talking about right there. Probably best to have a look at my expansion.
Oh, he
dungeon,
just
actually. I can
immediately
show
goes
you
to an
what I'm
expansion
talking
dungeon, I
about
see.
right there.
Man, this loading screen's so nostalgic for me too, man. I miss
So
it.
everything that gets mined from
Yeah, it was in beta at one point. I'm not sure if it actually ever released out of beta. It's the thing. Classic. You know, some things never change.
say this node right here. Up here, it's bloody scrolling.
Yeah, this was an
It's a
expansion dungeon.
flash game, folks. It's a little tricky.
So he's
So
got
all
like
this
more
stuff,
unique
this iron
resources.
right
I
there,
don't think
that's
he
gonna be
did this
picked up
right
by
because these
me,
are basic
and if it
resources. I'm not
just
sure he
is
got
left
anything
then
special here.
stacks, Then once it fills up the area and gets to the maximum size,
Yeah. All right, let's show. Where does he show like the raid?
researched all of them yet.
Oh yeah.
Books.
This is where you see your population, training.
And of course,
this is
the
where you
more
buy new
advanced things
units.
he can start to steal from. Also, I am noting that snoring in the background is getting rather irritating. But that's the level I'm at. If we have a look at the
Oh yeah, and then
the
you have like
future
your research
technologies,
tree.
you
There was
see
there
all
was
this
quite a lot.
technology available
I
for
never got anywhere near
overall
this.
mastery. You need all sorts of crazy stuff in order to.
But you see, all this stuff makes it feel like it really could have been its own game, like Dungeon Keeper, but like Dungeon Overlord, but no, this is Dungeon Keeper, but like multiplayer elements and all of it, and like a bit more stuff. I don't know, man.
point. And that's all the technology I've actually.
I just hate the fact that this is lost media now.
researched.
Oh,
So,
the only way I
why
can
do you
experience
even
it
bother
is
with this?
through
Well, what you try
like
and do is you try and
basically
get your level up,
random
and every time
YouTube
you
videos.
gain a level, you can. And things tend to. Raids do take a little bit longer.
Let's
So
see.
if I
Oh
were
yeah,
to
then you
add
could
a
like
warp
raid
to
human
it. Oh, look,
settlements
1
and
out
then
of
get
53
like
total
resources
attacks.
that
So,
way.
yeah,
And this
train
was the
something up to
Overlord
that, you
map
get
where you could
experience
like
that way.
see all the
There are
different
two ways to gain
mountains.
experience in this game: completing quests and by getting certain rooms up to level 5. Because then
Oh yeah, and then it has to look inside the
Because
mountain.
I couldn't think of anything lords. All these guys
Yeah,
are real
so
players.
you start at the basic dungeons at the bottom. You know, see, that's where everyone is. And it only ever filled up those in the mountain. And then all of these other slots in the mountain were like expansion dungeon slots that would always start empty, but other players could fill them up. I don't know if you had to have like a basic dungeon. I don't think you did. I think you'd be in like any dungeon here. And they would have like random resources in them, but some of them you could only mine with like a certain level of research technology as well. You know, there's a bit of a skill tree there. Like this one, like the heart of the core of the mountain and all that. That was like a pretty big one.
Is right here. Bob.
Hey,
doesn't
what's
like
up?
me very much.
Hello,
You see, I
Jackie
attacked Bob,
Lankins.
And
And that's
Bob
how you
got
start the
very,
game.
very
Yes,
upset
makes
about
sense.
that.
And the
as
new-
you can see,
How you doing tonight,
he was-
Jackie?
he
Sorry,
was
let me
very,
just start
very
off the-
upset. You know, Facebook game-
And some things never change in gaming. Oh yeah, I remember this. He got like hate mail because he was raiding another player's settlement in this game and all this, and the dude was just like sending him hate mail over it. Oh, gaming never changes. How's your stream going? It's going all right. It's going good. Hell yeah. Happy to hear that, man. What about you? I'm doing all right today. I'm going to do a kind of something different today. Right now I'm in my like pre-main topic yap where I'm just talking about old Facebook games. And right now I'm talking about, I talked about restaurants today and I showed a bit of that on stream, my video. Now I'm talking about like this old game called Dungeon Overlord that's basically lost media now. There's no way to play it now. And it makes me really sad because this one I really, really liked a long time ago. I wish I could still play it. And so I'm just kind of watching old TV video and just basking in the nostalgia of watching old Total Biscuit video as well. Just like remembering all the different mechanics of it and showing it off. I should probably actually call it here, though. That's probably
It's
enough.
An extremely serious business, and I can totally understand his attitude.
Of course.
Be reasonable, the kind of thing that a normal person would do.
Yes. Dungeon Overlord was like a great little game. Do you play any games? Of course. This is actually a very unusual stream for me. Normally, I don't do any just talking or just yapping streams. I mean, I'll do like my mandatory half-hour pre-game yap, but most streams I do are almost all game streams. So this is kind of going outside my comfort zone a little bit, trying something a little bit new, seeing how it goes, you know? Although I probably should actually close out this. Yeah, fine. Pop. Let's get that music going. Yeah, that was Dungeon Overlord. Ah, I see, yes. Right now, my main game is... tell me if that's too loud, by the way. It feels loud to me, but I know it's like not as loud for you guys on my mixer end. But yeah, my main game at the moment is currently Hollow Knight. I've never played the original Hollow Knight, and with all the hype around Silksong, I felt like, yeah, I should give it a try. I've never played a Metroidvania before, but I figured it was probably worth a shot, and I've been really enjoying it. I've been doing a pretty good job, I think. I've been beating all the bosses. I got past the Mantis Lords in like 4 or 5 attempts. They weren't that bad. And then in the last stream that happened yesterday, I beat the Dream Meister or the Soul Meister. And you like horror games? I haven't actually played that many horror games, surprisingly enough. I'm not sure if I'm really that good with horror. I think horror would get to me. Maybe that'd be good for stream content. I know Silent Hill, like, Weird F came out today or yesterday. I think it's actually yesterday. But I've heard kind of mixed things about that. Like, it has, like, Dark Souls combat in it. I don't know. Maybe it's worth checking out. I've also heard the performance in it is absolutely horrible. So, that might be an issue. I don't know. I haven't heard enough about that game. And I like... Also, horror games are also a weird element for me because I like watching other streamers play horror games specifically. Like, that's like a great form of content for me to watch. So, well, if I watch a streamer play a horror game, then I watch the horror game getting played, which means you're not gonna get that first impression for me playing that game. So, it really kind of dilutes the experience for you guys. I like horror games. I like them. I like watching other people play them, at least. I'm not sure I would do well playing them on my own, but maybe for stream, maybe. I'm not ruling that out. What do you think of the lore? Oh, the lore you made for that tabletop? I think it's all right. I think you could just, like, cut that down. I'm not very actually familiar with tabletops, or, like, how important that lore is to people in them is a thing. You really gotta tailor your lore to the medium you're kind of working with. So I'm not sure if that's like a big deal, but as like a personal note, I think I would summarize that down to, I don't know. You don't have to go detail about like going back and forth between it. You could just be, the lore is just very simple on its surface, and then, you know, you're getting chased by monsters, and then there's a hidden lore of just, oh yes, the monsters are actually the bullies he trapped down there to torture because they were bullying him type of thing, you know? I don't know, keeping it that simple I think is actually fairly good. I don't know how the rest of the game looks and feels though, and that's also kind of important I think for a board game, because it's all about like how it all meshes together too. But as the lore as you presented it me stands on its own, yeah, it seems absolutely fine to me for like a backing for like a game like that. Have you tried DVD? Ah, funny you should mention that, in fact. Yes, I have played DVD actually quite a lot on stream. Not like a huge amount, but I've played like 4, 5 streams of DVD. I think Dead by Daylight. Yeah. I mainly play Huntress on there. I've started getting into the Artist now that I bought her. So I have very limited amount of perks. I only have like the Artist as like an unlocked character, and oh yeah, and Pyramid Head. I also play Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head's fun. I just kind of really suck with him and aiming his thing, because unlike with Huntress, you can't like flick it right as you shoot it. Yeah, I gave you a longer version of the lore. It's a little bit shorter, but I'll take that as a no tell. Yes. Yeah, you don't have to, I feel like you don't have to go super in detail with the lore of a tabletop game, because most people are in it just for, you know, the game itself. But so the simpler you keep it on its face, I think the more people will enjoy it, because it allows them to like think about things and like have fun with it, and the way it interacts with it. So they realize the monsters they've been running from this whole time are actually people that were transformed because they were bullies. You know, I think that's a really good impact on its own. Where are you from? I'm from the realm of stories, of course. Ba, 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 ba. This is my book. This is my book. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, let me just show you the entrance, how it looks in the front, because I'm very proud of it. Look at that. Yes. This is my story, my little book. Yes, I gave you longer. Okay, write down notes. I see, yes. Yeah, I'm from this book right here. Thank you very much. I'm also from the, this book is also published in the United States of A. Hell yeah, brother. Well, actually, it's just, you know, this book could be anywhere, but yeah, United States. Lol. I'm very proud of this. It took me a lot of effort. Nice play, so thank you. It took me a lot of effort. Like, there is a kind of insane amount of effort that went into this book and making it presentable for a stream and making everything just transition so nicely between stuff and allow me to just add in whatever stuff I want and immediately slot it in and have it work. Like, dear God. Dear God. It's, I mean, I am lazy, so it took me, like, way longer than it would take, like, most people. But it still took me, like, a year or so to get everything perfect, man. Textbook librarian, it's yours. No. Don't sign me in there with all the other dusty ones. No. Anyway, I think we've hit that. Oh, yeah, and here's, I guess I should introduce him again. Here's Quill. Say hi, Quill. No, I said hi. Well, I guess you already did say hi. There he is. Yeah, he's a little pen that exists outside my book. That just helps me make everything work. I say help. He's basically barely help. Do you like artwork? I do like art. I watch a lot of anime, of course. I appreciate art. Funny enough, many years ago, I actually took art classes, and I hesitate to say decent, but I was okay. I was just all right. The problem is, art gets very frustrating for me very quickly because I'll get frustrated that I can't draw a straight line, like, correctly without any zigzags or squiggles and so I just end up practicing a straight line over and over again, and I'll completely just get frustrated with the fact that I feel like I'm not improving, and then I'll give up, and I'll completely ignore the fact that I was just trying to do, like, a picture in the first place. I mean, I can do, like, little funny doodles with, like, mouse or pen or stuff like that, but I can't, like, take art seriously at all and try to improve in it, because I'll just get immediately frustrated in it. It's, I don't know, it's kind of a painful. As soon as I want to take something seriously, then I want to do it correctly, and if I can't do it correctly, then I get frustrated, and then I can't take it seriously. It's a whole little spiral, kind of indicative of a lot. I'll put you next to the dictionaries. Well, that'll at least help me memorize some words, I guess. Actually, work with streamers and gamers on custom logo. Oh, okay. I'm not too interested, but good for you, man. I also make a YouTuber model. Nice. Yes, I put this one myself together, too. I'm proud of you, man. I'm not too interested myself. Hope you have a good night all the same. Yes, I actually put this body together all for me, and I stitched it together, and that was also a lot of work. Stitching this body together and then making it able to move and all that. I mean, I'm happy with the result. I really should have started smaller, though. I really should have started smaller. No one should follow my example in whatever I did. It was a gigantic waste of time, but I'm still proud of it. Oh, man. Anyway, I think we should get on to the main topic of today. Now, let me put something actually more nice in the background. Probably something a bit better. Let's see. What do I want to put in the background? I guess I could put on, I just don't like having on my intro, like outro, as like the background constantly, if we're going into the main part of stream. So wait, how strong is your VTuber? Well, I have the magic to jump into stories, and I'm able to survive on my own. I've got a little bit of magic, I've got a little bit of skill with a bow and arrow. VTuber? Well, that's what you said. You said VTuber. VTuber? How strong am I, you should say. Yes. I got a bit of magic. I got a bit of skill with a bow and arrow, though I got that on me. I have to use it to survive. But yeah, I mean, like, power scaling wise, I guess you could say I beat Goku, you know, casually. Well, my friend is getting me some McDonald's, even though I still feel full from the tamales. I mean, I get that. I like the snack, too, even when I'm not explicitly empty. It's a bad habit, but I mean, I feel like that's like pretty normal as things go. Anyway, I'm gonna switch over this music to something that fits more main topic energy, you know? The brain rot from the Minecraft server days, the Hamcraft server. Wait, Goku? Goku doesn't have magic, so my magic could beat him pretty easily, in fact. Alright, let's get on to the main topic, shall we? I no reason to actually go to switch away from this screen, I guess. So I guess we can stay here. You know, I had tamales 8 hours ago. I still feel full. Yeah, up to you, man. Sometimes I'll feel full, and then I'll take a bite of something, and I'll realize, oh, actually, I could really just use something else. I'm actually hungry. Base form or ultra instinct? If he doesn't see it coming, then he can't stop the reality warping magic. Don't take power scaling too seriously. I'm just having fun here. I don't know. People take powers and characters. Well, let me just try and get my thoughts in order. Powers exist for the purpose of the character and to fulfill a specific purpose in the narrative of the story. I don't know. This is kind of just an issue of people that just power scale and just for the sake of power scaling. It feels kind of pointless to me, you know, especially outside of their own stories, like two characters from completely different stories playing them against each other, see who win. It's fun if you want to do like an in-depth like immersion fight to see how they would actually truly interact. That's fun. That I get. That feels like you're slamming two like toy soldiers or action figures together. You know, I can get the fun in that. Like, death battles are kind of cool too. I get to appreciate that. But like, actually arguing in words about like who would beat who without going into like the actual character, taking only their strongest like feats regardless of context and ignoring like all the narrative reason for that or something like that, and it kind of stripping them down of their whole narrative relevance to just their powers feels like it's almost like navel gazing and kind of like defeats the whole purpose of the character. I don't know. It feels weird to me. If you want to do like fun immersion stuff, all good, but just straight up power scaling, like sure, a character might have like lifted the moon at one point, but there's also another like issue where he wasn't the main character, where he got casually punched by like a mook villain and got like knocked out for half the fight because he wasn't the main character of like this issue or whatever. But nobody counts that because everyone has anti-feats. They only count the feat where he was the main character and was like the strongest and had to do this narrative important thing for the sake of the story. So, but then you're stripping that of the narrative importance and just saying like, well, he did this, so he could obviously beat this character. So it feels like it really a character's feats usually heavily depend on what the narrative constructed around them wants of them and like wants of that character and the purpose. So I don't know, a lot of times it just feels very pointless. All right, let's move on. Let's see, do I have this on the right page? I do. Good. No. Where is the right? No, do I not have the right? Like, there it is. Okay, here we go. Space bottles. All right, that's a bit too big. All right, and go. I'll have to adjust the filters again. Really annoying, but I see. So you're around the power level of feeling. This is all just for fun. I was just wondering. Hope you had a good stream, Lord Wheel. Hope you have a good night, doll face doodles. I hope you have a good one. I mean, technically, I do have magic. That's the whole reason I'm in the book at all. So, I mean, at least there's that. If you want to play around with that, that's fine. If you want to like construct your own like fan fiction or whatever, I'm all for it. In fact, we're about to delve into some fan fiction right now. In fact, finally, I'm gonna keep it on this filter though, in case I want to watch a YouTube video as well. I'm lazy. Yes, sir. Hell yeah. All right, let's dive into things a bit. This is, of course, the Space Battles forum. I became aware of this like forum like a year or so ago when I was kind of like looking where people were posting their stories, and there were like the usual sites like Archive of Our Own or AO3, stuff like that. People were trying to like post like more serious stories and like it's somewhat curated. And then there's like the whole areas where there's like just pure fan fiction, and those are kind of like two ends of the spectrum I just wasn't so interested in. I was kind of more looking for where people were posting casual stories for fun, but still taking it like somewhat seriously. And I kind of found on this site, So I just kind of want to see what was going on here. Maybe you guys will enjoy it too, you know? That's kind of my thought process. So let's go. I'll refresh this real quick. Song of the Woman, this is original fiction. Sword of Ice and Fire, DC Comics. Adventures of Guy Elemental, Saves Coming. Let's check out Saves Coming. That's got 27 pages. This guy's worked on a while. Original and action. Okay, let's check it out. All right, this is the first. Oh, I thought for a second there was not safe for work there right there. Oh, my heart skipped the beat almost. Cute, horny main character. Save Scumming has cute, horny main character. Okay. Time looping magic. Lots of progression. OP to more OP main character. Cute girls. Mr. Couch Top, the overweight but friendly British short-haired cat. Emotion wheel thing for reference. Emotion wheel? What? Earth, vigilant, metal anticipation. I'm guessing this has to do with those, like his lore or world building. Spark, amazement, lightning spark. I mean, I kind of get that out. That kind of makes sense to me. Sure. Dark, loathing, void, disgust, and then boredom. Water, terror. Terror? I mean, I guess people are afraid of, like, the deep, dark water. Like, I can see that. Okay. Ice, fear. That one doesn't really make sense to me, but okay. Creation, trust. Okay. All right, and this is kind of like the preview, right? Apparently he's got, like, oh, yeah, thread marks. I'm not actually that familiar with use of forums, so be patient with me if I don't know, understand, like, basic stuff like thread marks and all that stuff. Please. All right, so this is basically the introduction. His little, like, preview of what the story is like. I died 9 months from today. On the day that Fortress NA, my home and one of the few safe cities left in North America, was assaulted by a million monsters pouring from the same portals we'd been exploiting for years. 9 months. I have 9 months to find out who is responsible for the breach, which corporation stands to gain the most, and who is pulling the levers, or power to burn down my home. What do I have? A shitty apartment on the outskirts, a job interview in the morning that passed 9 months ago, and my obese cat, Mr. Couchtop. Oh, and the ability to set save points and reload them. Oh, okay. Yeah, just that casual ability. To load them as often as I want, reliving entire days or a few minutes over and over again until I get everything right. Yeah, I can do this. This story is very good and you should read it. Okay, so we've kind of got like an apocalypse and he's got, all right, got a time travel, and this guy can do it as, 2 days over and over as much as he wants again, kind of like ReZero, except within his control without the terror of it. Okay. Interesting. Hey there, and welcome to SavesCom. Before we get started, quick note, the entire story is already available to read completely free over my Patreon. Paywalls, no tricks. Okay, yeah, he's got a little Patreon link there. On launch day, you'll get the first 10 chapters all at once. I hope that works out well for him. I mean, he's got like 27 pages here, so really, I think there's some interest in it at least. Also, really nice art. Like, holy shit. Yeah, no, every bit goes straight toward commissioning art, illustrations, and everything else that helps bring the story to life. Yeah, I believe it. Jesus. Oh, that's supposed to be that character. Okay. And this is a whole lot of art. Okay. And now we're on to Chapter 1 of SavesComing by Raven's Dagger. How long is this first chapter? Yeah, I can do this. Let's read the first chapter and give it like a little review. Chapter 1. It was widely accepted that magic was complicated. I died 9 months from today, on the 7th of June at approximately 11:30 in the morning. I spun my chair around and leaned in over my shitty old laptop. It was the one that carried me through college and had been dated even before I bought it. I had replaced it a few months ago, or a few months from now. It had started freezing up more and more often. The operating system had gone out of date, and a new one only came with a monthly subscription plan and couldn't even run on this old machine specs. Oh, and had there been a big data leak 2 weeks from now? Yeah, you gotta worry about all the little stuff from that. So, alright, magic exists. Good to know. I guess that's just accepted. Just complicated. Well, magic should be. If magic was simple, that'd be very boring. It'd just be scientific. I blinked, trying to refocus. So much of what I knew was now foreknowledge. Maybe, if I wasn't just losing my mind. I was in my apartment, in the past. That wasn't possible. But magic was complicated. It was one of those, no duh, kind of facts that people just took for granted because it was so obvious. Rain is wet, fire is hot, Magic is complicated. Seems appropriate. It was so strange to just sit here, though. The normalcy of it all was just jarring. A few minutes ago, I'd been talking to Mrs. Tone, my landlady, out in the corridor. I'm gonna turn this down. It's slightly bothering me. Okay, there we go. When I want to focus on the story, I have to, like, turn down the music, man. It's kind of... Whenever I try to write myself, I'll have... I'll start by having some music or stream in the background, and as I get into, like, the zone when writing, I'll gradually turn down that stream's volume, or music's volume, lower and lower, until the point where it's basically barely even noticeable by the end. That's a funny way to get into things. I wouldn't say I was ordinarily a very analytical woman. Oh, hang on. My landlady out in the corridor. We were standing by a set of windows that looked outside. It was... Oh, okay, now the hunger is setting in. Yeah, it just takes a few. At least you got some food coming. It was nice and sunny out. The clouds were high. The sky wasn't filled with smoke. The city wasn't on fire. I shivered, blinked a few times, then pushed through. I didn't have time to freak out. I had other things to do. I wouldn't say that I was ordinarily a very analytical woman. The truth was that I was a chronic underachiever. Samesies. I had the grades to do well, but never the drive. I liked some things, but rarely enough to give myself a boot in the rear to try and achieve anything. The only times I truly pushed myself was when I was stressed. Okay, this is too low. There we go. That's a good minimum. When I had a lot of things weighing on my mind, and I could bury those in work and action. This guy's prose isn't the worst. He's like, keeping the sentence, like, lengths mixed, doing some shorts, doing some longs, doing some, like, compound sentences. Well, does he do some compounds? Kind of, not... I guess this was a big one. Yeah, that was, like, a big one. It's not the worst. It could be a little bit better, but it's not the worst. I don't really get the feeling that she's... If I do have a one critique so far from this writing, it's that it doesn't feel like this is a woman that's stressed out because she just suddenly got transported back in time from an apocalyptic hellscape back into normalcy. It doesn't feel like that. That's not what I feel I'm getting. That's what it's telling me what's going on and what she's feeling, but I'm not really getting that tone. It just feels like very straight analytical. Like, they're telling me they're shivering and blinking and they're pushing through, but I'm not really getting it, If I have one critique so far. Okay. The only times I truly pushed myself was when I was stressed, when I had a lot of things weighing in my mind, and I could bury those in work and action. I had so much on my mind right now. The laptop finally booted up, and I stared at the date and time in the corner of the screen. It was the same as my cyberware. Same as my old life, my phone. Same as what Mrs. Tone said. The 7th of September. That was impossible. Being here was impossible. A few minutes ago, I was being crushed under a collapsing building beside a howling A-class portal to some unknown hell. I never made it. Just bled out beneath the rubble, full of regret and agony. I couldn't even scream through. Then I blinked and I was in the lobby of my apartment building. Upright, whole, 9 months earlier. That was today. A few minutes ago, in fact. Not just alive, back. Back in a building that had burned down just the day before. The day before, for me. Clearly my apartment was fine. Mr. Couchtop, my grumpy British shorthair, was fine. I was fine. I shouldn't be here. Not in this chair, not in this building, not alive. Okay, it's starting to, like, get there now. But here I was, returned to the moment just before everything had started. Rewound, reset, whatever you wanted to call it. The first time around, this day had been boring. Grocery shopping, job interview jitters, small talk with Miss Tone in the lobby. I'm surprised I remember that day then. I let out a breath and stared at the login screen until my thoughts stopped spiraling. Something was different this time. Not just the timeline, not just the miracle of not being paced under rubble. Something in me had changed. There was a weight beneath my sternum now. A pull. A pressure. A pulse of something alive and molten and wrong. A magical core. Oh, alright, so I know what that feels like. I touched a hand on my chest. No scar. No mil-spec augment where my eye used to be. Okay. just skin and that low, humming pressure in my gut. Okay, I whispered, half to myself, half to the gods I didn't believe in. Alright, let's figure this out. As I said, I wasn't entirely stupid. The situation was impossible, so what could, and the answer of logical answer, explain this? A hallucination? Maybe I was still bleeding out and this was the last grasp of my mind? But that didn't feel real. Someone with mind magic? There are people capable of crafting illusions, even very convincing ones. I'd seen some working at LunaCorp, and during that final big battle. But illusions were usually small and static. This was a whole building. My apartment. This is Tone. My grocery bags with a stain on the bottom where I'd spilled soda one time a year ago. The missing floor tile by the doorway. The smell of this place. No, not an illusion. Or if it was one, it was so well crafted that no matter what happened, I was screwed because I was dealing with at least a B ranker. What remained? Okay, so a B ranker can create like a super illusion like this then. So, alright, we're dealing with solo leveling power scaling here, I see. Memory manipulation? Maybe someone had fed me the dark future? September 7th. I'd been fighting on that front on the 7th of June. I counted months backwards on my fingers. 9 months. 9 months of random, specific memories. My memory wasn't perfect by any means, but I can recall a lot of meals and changes over that time. New gear, new friends, new work. It was a lot. A simulation. But why me? I wasn't anyone interesting. A psychological break. I wouldn't say I was staying this person around, but I didn't feel that bad. A little anxious for a job interview coming up on Monday? Christ, I'd passed that one, no? So what'd that leave? Mr. Couchtop jumped up into my lap and pressed his little paws into my chest. I gasped, a memory of rebar and concrete shoving down on me. Only was my dumb cat wanting attention. I petted him. Shouldn't that just be pet? Pretty sure you just have to say pet there. Nah, well. I petted him, the action calming while I tried to resettle my thoughts. Nice that they're developing so much, though, to setting up their mental state and just the whole world right here in a natural way. It's not too bad. It's a good way to do it without being overly so much exposition. Still, we're basically getting it from her to just, like, try and make sense of how she jumped back, but hey. It's not the worst way I've seen exposition done. It's actually pretty okay. I pet him, the action calming while I tried to resettle my thoughts. Magic and counterintuitive logic. There was something about it that tickled my brain. Something I learned more recently while talking to Louise. I paused. Louise would still be alive, wouldn't she? I felt my insides twist and turn, something churning within me. A feeling of deep, unfilled regret. Almost palpable, it was so strong. I pushed it down and opened Magipedia, the world's foremost source of almost correct information about magic. It was one of those sites that were operated by volunteers and information was often sourced dubiously. Alright, I'm pretty accurate there. That sounds believable. The site looked exactly how I remembered it. Cluttered, poorly maintained, and suspiciously close to being a government honeypot. It was mostly written by D-rankers and wannabes. People who lived online and had something to prove. Which meant it was one of the few places with actual information buried under 3 layers of bullshit and personal theories. I searched up ranking. It was a hunch, but the page loaded slowly, like it needed to stretch before working. The top was filled with ad banners trying to sell me mana supplements and low-end insurance. The content was familiar, almost word for word from what I remembered. And the progression of magical development, rank D is widely regarded as the most challenging to attain. While higher ranks demand greater time and resources, their advancement generally follows a steady trajectory tied to natural maturation and continued patience. Transition from rank E to rank D, by contrast, is often abrupt and spontaneous. It typically occurs only after extended periods of magical cultivation or personal growth, and is frequently triggered by moments of intense emotional upheaval. Okay, so there's a big jump to go from basically nothing to actually somewhat something, and then from there it's steady progression? Okay, I can get on with that. That part stuck with me. Emotional upheaval. Watching her coworkers get torn apart by portal monsters, being handed a rifle with no scope and told to hold the street with 3 other E-ranks who couldn't even reload under pressure, running messages past artillery fire, dragging the wounded into cover that wasn't cover, pulling the trigger, pulling it again. I scrolled a little more, finding the section I was looking for, had a subtle, bland subheading, Power Expressions. Upon reaching rank D, most individuals attuned to magic will acquire a new ability. While these abilities generally fall within broad thematic categories, their specific manifestations tend to be highly individual. Notably, this initial ability emerges alongside an innate intuitive understanding of its function and application. I worked my jaw. Was that what it was? I attached my torso just under my sternum and between my breasts. Okay, so they should have an intuitive ability. I didn't need the wiki to tell me what was happening. I could feel it, a core, a power, a trigger, just waiting to be pulled. I stood up and nearly knocked my chair over. Mr. Cowchop let down, then hopped up onto his perch. Energy was bubbling under my skin, rising through my veins like pressure in a boiler. I wasn't one for impulsive action, at least. I hadn't been. But now I couldn't sit still. I needed out. I needed to move, and to breathe air that wasn't thick with memory. I'd closed my eyes for a moment and calmed down. I had an extreme and well-honed talent for ignoring one problem by focusing on another. I'd come to Fortress NA, a city on the East Coast, because I'd been pushed to it by a well-meaning family. I had an aunt that lived in a city that I didn't much care for, and she didn't much care for me. But she had nagged and insisted that life here would be better, the sort of woman that had married well, and was proud of our new station in life. She helped a little, but for a long time I'd been stuck here, disconnected from the friends and family I'd left behind. Finding a job at Lunacore had been a big deal. I wasn't one for the whole, this company's your family, shtick they push so hard. Once I was in, I'd kind of fallen for it. It provided me with people, and contact, and network. And near the end, when everything went to shit, that had been a lot. At that moment, I had a whole new problem to focus on, and I was just getting used to the hilt. I was going to use it to the hilt, but that didn't mean I had to be inefficient about it. I needed to take notes, write down everything I knew, and remembered it now, before things started to slip away from me. Okay. How do we get on this? Okay, we're getting the backstory here. I don't know, this feels a little oddly placed. This little bit of exposition dialogue right here feels a bit oddly placed considering, like, we're just, the energy's bubbling up, she's about to use her power for the first time, and then suddenly backstory about, like, why she came to the Fortress End City. And then we get to the point, like, alright, now I gotta write down my knowledge. So, didn't feel like it, like, flowed naturally there, but okay. At least it was short. I didn't exactly have too many free notebooks sitting around. I didn't trust foreknowledge to my crappy old laptop. I shook my head. Power test. Wait, why don't you trust foreknowledge to your laptop? Well, I guess like because it has problems booting. I think they actually mentioned that earlier. Okay, fine. I mean, it's probably better than nothing at least. I shook my head. Power testing first, but not in my office or my living room. All right, then why did you have this whole dialogue then? Whatever. Now, the fridge was half empty. Mr. Couchtop meowed in complaint from his spot and gave me a half-lidded glare of mild betrayal. Groceries first, I muttered. Testing second. Okay, so grocery first. I mean, I guess the cat's angry, but I feel like getting a whole power would be a big deal. He flicked his tail like he didn't believe me. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the couch, scooped up the bags I dropped earlier, and stepped into the stairwell. 3 floors down, my legs already burned. I didn't realize how out of shape I had been back then. Oh, wait, you're gonna go to the grocery store? I thought you had already got the groceries. Like you talked about the bags? You're literally just gonna go, you just got sent back in time. You have magic, you have foreknowledge of like an apocalyptic like happening. You have an unknown magic that evolved within you, you think. And you're just going for groceries as your first stop. Okay, yeah, whatever. Back now? I didn't realize how out of shape I'd been back then. Back now? Civilian me. Soft me. Before 9 months of employment as a guard and a pack mule. Okay, so this employment as a guard happens real quick. Okay. And pack mule, occasionally as a corpo soldier. The street outside was exactly as I remembered it. Narrow, overbuilt, the air smelled of hydrocarbons and old plastic. Someone blasted Ghetto Pop from a jacked up car nearby. Ads flashed from projectors. Hypermart, stock up or starve. I passed an ATM that hadn't worked since before I moved in and slipped into the parking garage next to the building. 3 floors up, just like before. Top level. All right, so kind of cyberpunk structures we got going on here. By the looks of things, by how it's set up. Camera didn't work. Fewer people parked here because no one wanted to climb stairs. The old van on cinder blocks was still here. Oh, okay. Just in a parking lot. I set my grocery bags down beside it and exhaled. I focused. That thing in my core wasn't just magic. All right, we're back to the now exploring our magic. It was shaped. I could feel 2 distinct pieces inside me. 2 triggers. The first one was primed. The second one felt locked. Waiting. I pulled the first. Mana raced through me like a shot of espresso straight into my heart. My breath caught, but nothing changed. No glow. No burst of light. No aura. I walked around, tracing a big circle. I threw some punches at the air, jumped on the spot. Nothing felt different physically. The second trigger flipped from locked to ready. I hesitated, then pulled it, and blinked. I was staying 10 feet away, facing a different direction. No sound, no shift to motion. I was there, then I was here. My jaw worked silently. I checked the time on my old dog, pulled the second trigger again. The clock ticked backward by 1 minute. I almost staggered. Oh, I said, voice tiny in an empty garage. I could rewind time. And that's the first story. All right. Let's see what people say real quick. Sorry, I'm a long-time looker, but you have several stories made. I like writing. Okay, fair enough. Read the story on the Patreon. Wow, the format there sucks. You would think that they would make it better access. Great story, though. Okay. Let's see. Pretend that I'm not only posting this on the first of the month. I need to prep. Okay. How much slave slots does you have? Just the 1 for now. Okay. MC needs to make a save right away. Well. I don't know. The fact that she reloaded immediately 9 months ago, it feels like a bit of a plot hole with the way we understand her power right now. Maybe it can just be like, maybe they'll just go back to the whole magic is complicated argument. And I worry for the whole world building if a lot of stuff that could be handled that breaks logic is just, well, magic is complicated, so I don't have to explain it type stuff, even if it breaks the established rules. Because why was she, if she just unlocked magic then when she was dying, if she just unlocked it then instead of at any other point, then why did it send her back in time 9 months if her power needs a specific locked save point that she needs to activate? So, I mean, I get it needs story start, but that just feels like a very odd problem to immediately create right at the start of the story, you know? And also, just the 1 for now makes me think that her power will definitely expand. I mean, I guess he admitted at the start that this was, an OP power story. Oh. And just having, probably a story just about having fun with, like, save points. And I get it, you want to have, like, the apocalypse, you want to have the meta story, and then in the meantime, you want to have, like, micro stories as well, and using, like, the save points. I mean, I get it, but might have been, I guess that's the best way to do it, too. Because if she unlocks it later, then she needs to be sent that back in the past before everything goes wrong if you want to have the story you want to tell. Like, I get it. And I guess that's why she has more abilities later. Let's see what else people said. Sometimes problems aren't quickly apparent, so there needs to be a game start save so it can be done over from the beginning. Well, I think that's the whole 9 months ago save. On the note, good luck. Well, I guess she only has, like, the 1 load. So it can't be. Concept is made, but writing mostly the same scenes over and over seems like a challenge to write well. That's what made the Agatha loop so hard. In this case, she can set new save points at will, so I don't need to repeat things too often. Alright, this is a reference to another story, I think. Oh, repeat things so often. So if it's like a re-zero situation, you have to, and you have that character keep resetting to that same save point, then yeah, repeating stuff too often might get a bit repetitive. Might as well post chapter 2 on here. Okay, and this is chapter 2. Do I want to go chapter? I feel like I got a pretty good look at the chapter. I think I want to just like skim these first chapters real quick. I'm kind of curious what people are writing. Did we even know her name? Did we even get her name? The main character's name in all this first chapter. Prose-wise, it was okay. It felt like it got a bit too into the rhythm, though. Like around here. At a tone that felt surprisingly neutral. I mean, maybe that was just like me, but I don't know. It felt a bit too analytical. It felt a bit too dry for what this character was supposedly going through in the head, you know? Felt also way too much description of her thoughts and just trying to process everything and not enough on the action itself, you know, on like what she does in the situation, and like relying on thoughts is nice as an author, but it kind of makes things a bit too expository and a bit too dry in the same aspect. And great that Odd Feeling is back. Ooh, the nausea. Ooh, sorry, man. Too bad, too. I'm not even playing a game, so it's not even like an FPS thing. That's unfortunate. Well, hopefully one day you'll get over it, man. I don't know. Is it? Or maybe I'm cooked. Because, I mean, like, this doesn't seem, like, on a glance, this seems as, like, fine. Also, this is something you might... this is something I do a lot when I'm reading online, especially, like, when I'm reading a lot. I'll, like, constantly, like, highlight where I am and where like, the edge of where I am, you know? Just to keep my place. That's something that's, like, an old habit, so I'll try not to do it because it's probably pretty annoying from your end. It's not nausea, I just feel odd. Oh, well, at least it's not nausea. I don't know. I feel like the pacing was okay. She used her ability. It ends the chapter finding out that she could rewind time, although I feel like that was pretty obvious at a certain point. Probably should have put in a line about like her hinting at that. I mean, it's a pretty big ability to have. I get why she wouldn't expect it, but come on. You got put 9 months in the past. I just got jump scared from my neighbor screaming. Ooh, I'm sorry. I hesitated, then pulled it. Signature flipped from locked to ready. I walked around, threw some punches. I don't know. Despite it, it feels like it needs both more emotion, but also to be a bit less stuck in her head. You know? It's an odd feeling there. If you're going to be so in her head, then it needs to have more emotion to it and not be so dry. If you're going to be outside her head, then it needs to be more action on like from a third person perspective, or not like an actual third person, but you know, like description of actions and what she's doing. Because I got a vague sense of like when she was walking outside her apartment to her car of the area she lives in, but it was pretty vague. You could like set that up a bit more there. I get he wanted to get to the point where she uses her power for the first time quickly. That also felt a bit too odd, because she talked about like groceries first, then she goes out with her bag to get groceries, but then and powers second, but then she immediately tests her powers as she gets to her car. Like, I get it's like an open, like, empty space, but why would she say groceries first then if she's gonna test her powers first, you know? Bit of an odd, like, quirk right there in the writing. And then, of course, there was a bit of weird expository dialogue where she talks about, like, why she is here in the city, and that just kind of felt a bit random. And also, despite her still not believing she's back in the past, it seems like, because she doesn't trust that he doesn't realize she's like rewinding time or going backwards through time. She's already starting to think about like her foreknowledge and trying to recall everything and write it down. A little quirk like that. Overall, I'd say I see this as like a solid entry as like a first chapter, I think. This guy's definitely, I feel like, written before. That's how I get the feeling. I mean, he kind of like hinted at it already, but I got the feeling already. It's not full of the usual quirks where things go on too long for exposits on like stuff that's really unimportant, but it could still use a little bit of polish. That's my final verdict. Good for you, Raven Sagger. Not a bad first chapter. All right, let's see what else is on here. Oh, here's another Raven Sagger story, Stray Cat Strut. Let's see a story from someone else. Adventures Guy. I feel like he's committed to very one story in particular. Core of Knowledge. Let's see. Original and Dungeon. Okay. The Crazed Scholar, the Hoarder of Knowledge, the Thief of 10,000 Techniques. After 10,000 years, a cultivator attempted to ascend, to join the heavens, to be a god. He failed. However, the story of Zhu Han did not end... Oh, a Chinese cultivation story? I wasn't expecting that on Space Battles. He found that the heavens had gave another life as a dungeon core. Oh, he's a literal core of a dungeon. Okay. Oh yeah, and Royal Road. That's right. That's another place where people like post their stories that they're trying to take seriously. I don't know. Do people actually like read? I know people post their stories on like Royal Road, but do people actually go there to read stories? I'm not too sure on that one. Let's see what other options. Bones in the dark, newly graduated from the academy and finally permitted to wear the cross blinding bolts of a chartered mage, Esther is sent from the bright lights of the capital to the border provinces of the north. There she will work off her debt to the throne by serving in Vas Koran, a city known mainly for the crime and corruption that riddle it, from the lowest dregs of its slums all the way to the Lord Palaces. Even the magic she commands may not be enough to help her survive there, but hey, an adventure is an adventure. That one seems like... Alright, maybe I'll be... That one seems a bit generic. I've read a lot of... Maybe this one will be different, you know? I mean, that's like a pretty generic description. But I've read a lot of stories where, you know, the main girl is a girl with magic that people underestimate that's actually super powerful, that's in, like, this new city, or whatever. No, not the new city part, but I mean, like, girl with magic, underappreciated, but actually super powerful type thing. It's done a lot. Extra's Mantle. Wait, what do you mean I shouldn't exist? Okay, this one has more of a light novel title. Mantle of Gods, a beloved progression fantasy novel about 4 chosen heroes destined to save the world from an ancient evil. Too bad they're complete idiots who fail spectacularly, leaving reality to burn in eternal darkness. Okay. But why did I have to transmigrate into this doomed world as Jin Winters? A nameless extra not even mentioned in the original story. No, of all places, why Vienna? One of 4 cities destined to be completely annihilated in the opening act. Armed with my meta-knowledge and a cancer survivor's stubborn refusal to die quietly, I awakened the mysterious Mantle of Harvest, a power system protagonist never fully understood. Knowledge is only useful if you live long enough to use it. 91 days until Veil falls. Alright, now this one's absolutely just like pure light novel, isekai stuff going. Anti-hero? The former, like, cancer patient's an anti-hero. Alright, I'll give that a look. Anything? I should... Core miner. Born to dig until a system handed him a gun. Now he kills rogue mages for credits until one mission changes everything. Immediate 2. Alright, so when people have like a description and so it's like, this guy was this until this. That's like, they usually just have the one subversion. He was this, then he was this. They usually don't go for the 2 because then it starts to sound silly. This guy was this, then he was this, and then this. Then you start to get a bit serious. Then it starts to get into like the parody territory. New Life is Max Level Archmage. Yep, that's straight up light novel. Okay. Fight for Hope. Science fiction. The Phoenix's daughter is a dragon. Middle Earth with an enchantress system. Beware the trickster. Old gods. This one's actually graphic violence. Oh, graphic novels are kind of interesting, but I don't know, the people behind them always seem so... I know this isn't a graphic novel, it just got me thinking of them. People behind graphic novels always seem to be so... How do I say this? Up their own ass? Huff their own farts a lot? They usually don't care about the story and are just there to try and make beautiful art and then just cope whenever people point out the flaws in the story by like just talking about like symbolism or stuff like that. And they're usually very... what's that word where they're very like stuck up? And they think so highly of themselves, very snooty. I don't know. I just don't like... I've never read a good graphic novel. I'm sure they are out there, but I just don't like that whole scene in general. I was impressed with everyone, then plane crashed me into a magical baby. Let's give that one a read. Actually, let's do that one first right now. I'm kind of curious. Only got the 1 page so far, so maybe just the isekai. So it's probably just... crushed by a plane, and then... Yeah, I was a useless 31-year-old living alone in my one-room apartment until one day a plane crashed into me and sent me into a magical world as a baby to a single mother. That seems like I have talent with runes, and my mother looks like a badass warrior. Okay, alright, yeah, let's check that one out. He's already got 8 chapters, hot damn. Alright. I was stuck. Not as in I got my leg caught in a manhole or anything like that. Oh, okay. But more like something deep in my brain refused to move on. I found each morning the same exact agony, and not once did I feel an urge to expect something. Oh my goodness, he's so edgy. Taking a bit of a drink here. I was hoping to find more like off-the-wall type stuff, because in the past, when I like checked out the site briefly, I found some like really funny, just like stories that were just made purely for the fun of it. No Patreon or any of that stuff, just like purely there for the forum. And I appreciated those ones, man. Those ones are almost like even better because of it. It was painful, honestly, to go about your day like a soulless corpse, a nod here and there, smiling the same polite smile at the people you couldn't just ignore. That was what you did in any job. You tried to get along with people you wouldn't even bury if they dropped dead in front of you. Interesting metaphor at the Hey, hello, Norinda VT. Welcome to the stream. Hope you guys, thank you for the raid. Hope you guys are gonna have a good night tonight. Hope you had a good stream. What were you streaming? I am Will Took, the storybook traveler. And I have my assistant here, Quill. Hang on, we'll just say hi. There he is, he's saying hi. I am Quill, yeah. That's Quill, yes. Hope you're having a good night tonight. I am currently just reading some stories on the Space Battle forum. Kind of seeing what they got going on here. No, reload right. Hello, B Kitten. How you doing tonight? How was your stream? What were you streaming? Hope it was a good one. I'm just currently reading some stories. It's a bit outside my comfort zone. Normally, I'm a guy that plays like mainly single-player games, although occasionally multiplayer if I had very little time to prepare. I just want to relax. But I'm feeling a bit outside my comfort zone, so I'm kind of currently going through, online stories on the forum that I discovered a little while ago, where things are a bit, people don't generally take themselves as seriously, and I think it makes it more fun. It's not fan fiction, it's original works, but people aren't taking it like super serious by my book type stuff, you know? Stream went well. Streamed Pokemon Ruby, trying to complete the living dex. Oh god, that is a big goal. Good luck on that one. That's like that's a pretty big time investment, so good luck on that. I've never done anything like that. I played so many Pokemon games. I mean, I gave up back after Gen 5 or so. Alright, so I played up to Gen 3 fully. I played, I think Gen 4, and then I didn't like the Pokemon designs in it, so I stopped playing for a bit. And then I played like Gen 5, and I was starting to get into it, and then my DS got stolen from me, so I just never got back around to it. Or maybe I mixed those two up. Maybe it was Gen 4 I was getting into, and then the DS got stolen, and I didn't get another Pokemon game until Gen 5, and then I just wasn't feeling the Pokemon. Now I kind of fell off. But I do still really like Pokemon. But I never accomplished a goal like that. I don't think I've ever caught an actual shiny in like a mainline Pokemon game, like official shiny, you know? I've technically caught Pokemons in like fan spin-off games. Like there was a Pokemon MMO a while back that I technically caught like a shiny Spinda in. But I'm not sure I really count that. I'm not really sure on the shiny rates. But yeah, hopefully that's going well. If you have to raid and sleep, I understand, but I appreciate you all the same. All right, let's get back to it. Hopefully, I haven't been really looking at my stream. Hopefully this looks all right here. Oh, yeah, I could just mute and play. There we go. And bring that up, restream, there we go. Hopefully this looks okay on stream, and it doesn't get cut off on the bottom there. There is that big, like, black spot on, like, the left. But if I change that, then, like, YouTube won't really work right. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. All right. So currently we're reading through the story. I was depressed at 31, then a plane crashed me into a magical baby. Sad is ongoing. And here's a little preview. I was a useless 31-year-old living in my one-room apartment until one day a plane crashed into me and sent me into a magical world as a baby to a single mother. That, and it seems I have a talent with runes, and my mother looks like a badass warrior. Amazing. I was stuck. Not as in I got my leg caught in a manhole or anything like that, but more like something deep in my brain refused to move on. I found each morning the exact same agony. I'll start from the beginning again since you guys raided in. And not once I feel an urge to expect something. It was painful, honestly, to go about your day like a soulless corpse. A nod here and there, smiling the same polite smile at the people you couldn't just ignore. That was what you did in any job. You tried to get along with people you wouldn't even bear if they dropped dead in front of you. I was in my 30s. 31, to be exact. Meaning I was already a year deep into the so-called phase of finding oneself. There was nothing. Back in my 20s, I often comforted myself with the occasional motivational video that said your 20s were supposed to be chaotic. It was actually shocking how many resources you could find that justified being useless. Anyway, it was when you survived that chaos and brought yourself to the crux of adulthood that you supposedly experienced an enlightenment. Well, let me tell you, there's no such thing. I mean, yeah, I've been miserable in my 20s. I could tell that a change in numbers wouldn't change a damn thing. I barely called my family anymore, and whenever I forced myself to go out with friends, I stared out into the distance while trying to act interested in the important stuff being argued about the table. Politics, life, the poor and the rich, wars. Some distant country that's supposed to be heaven to live in. But it was either too far away or it was just so cold they'd only entertain the idea of migrating there, but never in a million years would you actually do it. I mean, who really cared, right? That shit we talked about was pointless. At the end of the day, we'd all return to our heels and be grateful to be rewarded for all the work we did for who knows why. So yeah, the whole thing about socializing wasn't worth shit, which was why I liked playing games. Somewhere deep in my mind, I knew this was me trying to escape my responsibilities. Being an adult, a 31-year-old at that, meant that I should be paying my rent, taking care of utilities, having a girlfriend, or even having children, which was supposedly like the ultimate satisfaction you get from life. Hell no. I couldn't even imagine growing little versions of me, then having their troubles on top of my own things. I didn't have time for that. I couldn't take that on. And even thinking about it made me nervous. And not, could I be a responsible parent, nervous in that way. Yeah, I was depressed. Yeah, I was depressed. Then again, who wasn't? But knowing that I shared this agony with millions of people didn't change a thing. At the end of the day, I'd always find myself wondering the same question. What the hell did I do to deserve this? Well, you didn't improve yourself in any way, for one thing. You just kind of go about your life and you're wondering why you feel empty. Alright, I'm fine with a main character that's a bit, flawed. I'm on board with that. That's okay to me. Let me take a bit sippy. Let me take a little sippy. It was a Friday night. I had absolutely no reason to go out. I could just sit there in my newly bought gaming chair, play some character who looked like he had everything he could have wanted. Thanks to me grinding my ass off, of course, and keep at it until sleep claimed me. But no, for some inexplicable reason, I felt the urge to go out and buy a six-pack. Maybe I thought I earned some booze after a week of soul-crushing work. Or maybe it took me hours to convince myself to go out and buy beer because I couldn't be bothered to buy it on the way back from work. And now I had to pay for my 6-hour younger self sins. Anyhow, I got out. Didn't even change my clothes. Alright, so he does actually have a job. He's not a NEET. Crazy. Sounds a bit like me, so I said I chose not to have kids either. I mean, in that respect, I guess it is kind of, I don't know. I don't have kids. But that's not like a conscious choice. It's not like I have anyone to make that choice with, you know? This isn't like a choice board that I haven't even had the opportunity to make that choice. But he does have a job. It's weird. After it's that little intro that makes it seem like so typical isekai, he's not a NEET. That's crazy. I guess also having an isekai where the character is like very done with work. I guess that's also kind of a trope in itself. Yeah, sure. Anyhow, I wasn't really expecting it from like this type of character that's like edgy at the world and hates himself and has problems with himself and all that stuff. That's more of like the NEET trope, I think. Whereas the worker who's tired of everything and who hates everybody is more just like really tired and doesn't care about life anymore. They're too tired to be this edgy, you know? That's how the tropes usually go, so it's a bit of a mix here. Anyhow, I got out. Didn't even change my clothes. It was raining, which was expected since I chose to go out. Oh, okay. Sorry, that confused me for a second. I got there. He's being sarcastic at the fact that because he chose to go out, then of course it's raining. I pulled my hoodie up and made myself as small as possible as I scuttled across the street toward the store lights. All right, now I'm imagining this guy as like overweight and basically like a round, short like ball. And with this description, as he scuttled across the street. It's been raining a lot these past couple days, hasn't it? The guy behind the counter said the second I entered the store, gazing up at me with a sympathetic smile on his lips. All right, so he's actually tall if the store clerk is gazing up at him, at least assumedly larger than average if he's not calling the store clerk small. I bet he did that because his boss told him to be extra careful with customers. Don't worry, friend. You don't have to smile at me. He says in his head. It sure has, I said as a response, then found my beers at the back of the store. I wasn't about to tell him all that, even if that would probably make him feel good about himself. Instead, I flashed my card and he took it, as professional as a 20-something-year-old working in the store could be. I mean, 20-something-year-olds working in the store can actually be fairly professional. I feel like the least professional people are actually the people that have worked in a store for like 30, 40, 50 years and are like old folks. Those are probably the least professional on average. Even the folks, like, sure, you'll get like the 20-somethings that have like all tattooed up and look like they're a drug addict that are just don't care at all. Sure. But even those people, I feel like it's a coin flip whether or not they'll actually be like friendly and actually somewhat professional, you know? The older folks, they don't give a shit, man. They're working at like a dead-end job, working at like a clerk at like a grocery store or like a supermarket like this. They don't care. They don't care at their age. No, they don't care about being professional. When the payment was completed, a brief pride swelled within my chest, and it was with a genuine smile that I got my card back from the guy. Paying for your six-pack. That was an adult thing, right? Right. Why is he so proud of paying for his own six-pack? He's 31 years old and he's had a job for at least a little while now. He hasn't like mentioned getting it recently or complained about it. Odd, but okay. I got out. Fingers clasped around the bag. Hoodie up around my scalp and working to save my greasy hair from the pouring rain. One turn after another. The lights emerging from the windows flashed around me as I kept at it, my heart thumping in my chest. Then I stopped. For no reason, I just stood there and let the rain batter down on me like I was in a movie. Except everything felt so real, and I couldn't even have made for a sidekick, even if I tried. Okay. Why is his heart thumping in his chest? Huh? Wait, he just went out to buy a beer, and now he's like walking home? But one turn after another, lights keep flash around me. All right, heart thumping. All right, some reason. And okay, so I guess he's getting the feeling that something's wrong and about to happen. Create that odd feeling is growing. Hope nothing bad happens. Don't die, man. Don't die. You're not allowed to die. Cold crept slowly in through my shirt, down across my stomach, and into my legs. About to say thighs. I shivered. I was 31 years old, and I had done nothing with my life. Oh, he's having a midlife crisis, I see. Understandable, actually. Admitting that, however, made things worse. It was too late now. I couldn't start anew. I couldn't do anything. I didn't even know what to do. So what brought this on? Buying beer and being happy that he was able to buy beer for himself for the first time? Was there even a way to fight against this growing emptiness that gnawed at my chest? Be a VTuber, man. Just be a VTuber. That's how you do it. How could I actually feel things again? Be a VTuber. Stream yourself. Convince yourself that people care about you. Why did I turn out this way? My sisters were perhaps the happiest people in the world. My parents weren't particularly bad with me. I did get hit a lot when I was a child, but that itself was more of a generational issue than a personal one. I'd been bullied in school, but I'd bullied other people too. At least it's very self-aware about it. Usually bullies actually don't admit that they're bullying other people. They'll like scoff it off. They'll like downplay it. They'll say it's just like teasing or having fun. Bullies don't usually think of themselves as actually bullying people unless they're really bad, is the thing. And then it's a point of pride. So there's not usually this middle point where they admit they're bullying other people and they're shameful about it. So, I don't know, it's a bit odd to me. Looking back at it now, I should probably be dead 15 times over. Hold on. Better be appreciative of every day you have and try to live. Let's see, where was my place? Oh, here we go. I've been bullied in school, but I bullied other people too. A mixture of both, as my father often told me, was a healthy thing. What, bullying? Getting bullied and bullying other people is a healthy thing? Interesting mentality, okay. Which now sounded like a load of bullshit to me. Yeah, maybe it was that. Yeah, my sisters were in college, in the process of becoming important people. Me, on the other hand, lived with a pair of miserable fools as parents when they were yet to be born. As parents when they were... What? Wait, what? Me, on the other hand, lived with a pair of miserable fools as parents when they were yet to be born? Alright, this one's actually kind of lost me here. What do you mean when they were yet to be born? They're born, your parents. Oh, I think this is referring to his sisters. Okay, so he's talking about how his sisters were in college in the process of becoming important people. Where on the other hand, he's lived around a lot longer, who lived with his foolish parents when his sisters were yet to be born, and yet he's accomplished little. In comparison. Okay. Odd way to phrase it, but I get it. It's just weird to say miserable, Alright, so in this sentence, to go in the actual structure here, the subject, that most relevant subject is the parents. Lived with the pair, miserable fools as parents. So when you use the non-subject like clause right here, like when they, like what is they referring to here? Most people would assume the subject that was just mentioned, the parents. You know, that's very natural. So when I'm pretty sure he actually meant to refer to this as a sister, so you'd probably want to like edit this sentence around so that's a lot more clearer. Yeah. I think the amount of times I've got a severe injury is about 10 or 15 times the amount of times I've almost died. I think we're at 6 or 7. You gotta look out for yourself better, man. That's not a normal amount to almost die. No, not at all. I mean, I haven't even come close to dying that often. I got like a hairline fracture on my arm once, and that was basically the worst I've got it. I've fallen off like a couple bikes, sure. But that hairline fracture on my arm was like the worst I ever had it. And I feel like that's normal. Almost dying 6 or 7 times is not. You gotta watch out for yourself there, buddy. Another shippy. It wasn't my fault. Yes. Alright, yes is its own, also feels weird. This is gonna be a nitpick, but this feels like it should be a yeah, you know? Alright, consider how this sounds. It wasn't my fault. Yeah. This was all because of fucked up childhood. Versus, it wasn't my fault. Yes. Because yes feels like yes is a reply answer. Yes and yeah, they're synonyms. But a yes is like a confirmation of a question that was asked. This is a statement. It wasn't my fault. So to say yes in response feels a bit not grammatically correct, even though it is technically grammatically correct. Whereas yeah is a general affirmation. Yes is not while it can be an affirmation, it's not like a general affirmation. It's more of just a answer to like a question, you know? I have no idea who I did have this luck that I haven't trust in me. Almost drowning in a pool is not fun. Ooh, that does not sound fun at all, yeah. Has it happened 6 or 7 times? I was always pretty good about swimming though. I always like took to water like a fish. My fingers relaxed. I was able to take another step again. Dragging myself through the street, back already soaked in cold winter rain. I was about to enter the apartment complex when I caught a whizzing sound slowly growing in volume. Then people screamed, and thunder growled. Growing nervous, I paused and looked over my shoulder. All right, another nitpick here. Having growled so close to growing. I mean, I actually, never mind. This is more of a nitpick for just like reading aloud. It makes it easier to mix these things up, having these like right next to each other. But for just reading it in your head, the people screamed, thunder growled, growing nervous. I paused and looked over my shoulder. Actually, that's fine. I just messed it up and I just wanted to project there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry there, man. Taicho. Then people screamed. There I saw it. It was a giant plane, and it was crashing right toward me. Or perhaps it wasn't. Maybe it was the imagination of mine too preoccupied with keeping things at a distance. This giant thing, though, broke through the layers of protection around and blasted right in me, and crushed me into a pulp. Oh, okay, that's all right. There's a plane. Almost drowning only happened once, granted. I don't know how to swim. Another time was when I was nearly choked to death because of this one jerk. Oh. Well, if it's any consolation, it's pretty hard to get choked to death. Harder than you think. Don't ask how I know that. You should learn how to swim, though. It's a good thing to know in case you're ever on the water. It's just good. It helps, you know, ease of mind if you're ever, like, on a boat or whatever, too. All right, how am I feeling about this so far? Yeah, this is the second chapter. Okay. I thought it said at the beginning that the plane crashed into an apartment. Oh. No, he just lived. It just said he lived in a one-room apartment until a plane crashed into him. But the plane didn't necessarily crash into him. until when he was in that apartment. Bit of a weird description there. Okay, got me the wrong ideas. Hi, Will. Hanging out in Lurked in for the night. Hello, Embers. Happy to have you in tonight. Hope you're having a good one, my friend. How's your night been? Right now, I'm doing something a bit different. I'm just kind of skimming through various stories on this Space Battles forum, which has a lot of fun stories that people, just post for fun. I'm kind of giving my thoughts on, like, the first chapters before moving on to another one, Yeah, I should really learn how to swim, considering where I'm from. The beaches are famous. Yeah, probably a good idea. It's not as bad as you think to get into the handle of things. You just have to be... how do I explain? Best way to swim. All right, the best way to tread water. I think that's a good place to start is how to tread water correctly. Don't, like, paddle up and down when you're treading water. Move your hands in, like, a circle and, like, your feet in, like, a circle. Do, like, figure eights with your feet. It sounds like that wouldn't work, but it actually works far better than, like, trying to paddle up and down to keep yourself afloat. Sounds fun. I'm doing well. Thanks. Hell yeah, man. Welcome to the Lurk Den. Yes, I actually did water polo for a while, and in water polo, you really have to learn how to tread water well. They made us do exercises where I tried that and it did not work. You have to do it fast, and you have to kind of put, like, you still have to put pressure down, like you're pushing down on, like, a jello, but you have to also spin your hands, like, around in, like, a circle, so you keep all right. This is hard to describe, but basically you have to keep your hands out in horizontal, not, like, straight out, arms straight in front of you. That won't work. You want to do it like your right hand by your right side, your left hand by, like, your left side, at your elbows at kind of like a 90-degree angle, that type of thing. Generally, you don't have to be like that exact with it. And then basically you rub your hands and, like, your hands are, like, flat, horizontal in the air. They don't have to be exact, but and then you basically kind of roll them around in circles. And just, like, you just keep making, like, flat circles in the air. And that will basically help keep you way up. And you do something kind of similar with your feet as well. Just rolling around in a circle. You go down a little bit, but not, like, crazy amount. That's how I remember it. It's been a while since I've swum, actually. It's been years. But yeah, the training for water polo was absolutely ridiculous. We had to tread water while holding, in each hand, a full, like milk carton worth of water in each hand. Not a carton, what's a jug? Yeah, full, like, 2-liter jug, I believe. In each hand, we had to do that while treading water, and this was, like, for a while, like minutes on it, like 5-10 minutes. We had to keep our head above water, and then eventually it would tell us, like, to, like, get our chest above the water too, so we'd have to really put the energy into it to, like, tread water with just our feet to get our chest above, like, the water line while holding these, like, jugs of water. Thanks for the tip. Next time me and my friend go to the beach, I'll try my best to swim. Do that under supervision, and the very shallow end. Beaches are a bit more dangerous to do it in because you always have, like, the risk of, like, a tide pulling you out there, man. So make sure you have someone that knows how to swim, like, right next to you at the very least, and keep in the shallow end. Swimming does take a bit of practice, but once you get there, it's not too bad. And I just told you how, like, to tread water. Treading water is one thing, but swimming is another. Swimming, you have to kind of get into, like, a very specific rhythm. The easiest way to swim is kind of like not the doggy paddle, but like the frog, where you basically... All right, so you put the back of your hands against each other in front of you. You push them out in front of you, and then you push them away from each other, and then swing them back behind you. And then you do kind of the similar thing with your feet at the same time, and that's like a very basic, like a frog stroke. That one's pretty simple to do, and you can learn fairly easy, I think. But still, have someone, like, actually lifeguard you right next to you to make sure you don't get dragged out without anybody looking, because things can happen really quick out there. And you've already somewhat almost died drowning, and your luck doesn't sound that great, so yeah, just be extra careful, man. But yeah, once you get the hang of swimming, then you won't have to be so scared, and you can enjoy the water a bit more. And it's definitely worth it, I think. Swimming around in the ocean, going snorkeling, going diving, and all that stuff, it is. Or even just, like, swimming around in the pool and seeing stuff underwater perspective, it's very nice. I highly recommend it. All right, so I'd say this story was... Oh, yeah, Embers, you're looking around. We just read out this story. I was the depressed 31. Then a plane crushed me into a magical baby. This is the summary. I was a useless 31-year-old living alone in my one-room apartment until one day a plane crashed into me and sent me into a magical world as a baby to a single mother. And it seems I have a talent with runes and my mother looks like a badass warrior. And it was something. There was a plane. The plane did crash into him. The plane didn't seem to have much to do with anything. The tone didn't seem to fit a story where a plane crashed into him. You know, you would assume where a story where like a plane crashed into a guy to isekai him would either be a dramatic thing where it has like a narrative significance, that plane, like it's like part of a plot or whatever, you know, like an overly serious thing to the point of comedy, or it's just like straight up like a Konosuba comedy by being so over the top in his death. Like that's almost like getting struck by 3 lightning bolts to kill you, to isekai you, or a straight up truck you. I don't know, the plane is just so over the top way to get isekai, and yet the story seems like it's so serious. The guy is like, not a neat, but you know, he hates himself, he lives a job that he does not like. He's like, has a midlife crisis because he realized he isn't going anywhere in life and he's 31 years old. And then he's hit by a plane and get isekai. Yeah, it's a good idea, and it's probably a bad idea if I decide to swim right now because I weigh 90 pounds and the water currents where I'm from can get pretty strong. Yeah, probably a good idea. Probably better to test that in the pool then, man. Oh, man. This is really taking a toll on my throat. I didn't expect that. I'm taking constant sips of ginger ale to help cool my throat down a little bit, to help smooth things out so it's not like taking as a toll. But yeah, doing nothing but narrate stories is surprise, surprise, very hard on the throat. All right, let's see. I'm not gonna read out this next chapter because that's not the point in story skimming. I just want to kind of see if anyone else has like said anything. This seems interesting, liked and watched. Didn't know what to expect next from this. Looking forward to more. Curious how many fatalities we will get as he grows. Fatalities? Oh my. And it's almost funnier to like watch without context people's reactions. Okay. All right, so it looks like it has some like genuine emotional moments too. Aw, where like the mother cares for someone. That's been nice. It's also nice to get comments like that where people like point out the emotional beats. I don't know. I really like forums like this where people just post stuff for fun and like you get like genuine feedback and comments and people actually reading stuff like this. Oh, it's very nice, man. I feel like the JP equivalent of this would be a very busy forum where actual like manga ideas for like web novels are taken and like are gradually adapted into like full light novels, into full mangas, and full anime, you know? But because we don't have that pipeline in the West, then this is just where it's left. All right, let's see another. Extras mantle. Wait, what do you mean I shouldn't exist? All right, this is another Royal Roader. Okay. What was that Tenmu? I think it me. Chapter 1, Morpheus from Tenmu. Okay. That's the title of the Morpheus from Tenmu. Yes, that's the chapter 1 title. Oh, okay. A beloved progression fantasy novel about 4 chosen heroes destined to save the world from an ancient evil. Too bad they're complete idiots who fail spectacularly, leaving reality to burn in eternal darkness. But why did I have to transmigrate into this doomed world as Jin Winters, a nameless extra not even mentioned in the original story? And of all places, why Vienna, one of 4 cities destined to be completely annihilated in the opening act? Armed with my meta-knowledge and a cancer survivor's stubborn refusal to die, I awaken the mysterious Mantle of Harvest, a power system protagonists never fully understood. But knowledge is only useful if you live long enough to use it. 91 days until the veil falls. 91 days to grow strong enough to change a fate written in blood. 91 days to prove that sometimes the extra can rewrite the entire damn story. Don't curse! Wait, why are my quest visions missing critical information? And what's this about harvesting more than just crops? No way! He's gonna harvest lives? What to expect? Original fiction, strong friendship dynamics and character development under extreme pressure. A protagonist who refuses to accept fate before he has tasted some beauties. Good variety of side characters with their own lives, motivation, personalities. Magic, sad guns. Why do I feel like I'm reading the back of like, like a PS1 game. It's trying to like describe all of its like features it's got going on that you expect in any game. Like, this game has graphics and music. And it's just like, I mean, yeah, it's good. This is definitely good stuff, but I feel like you don't really need to like put this as like your selling point here, right, man? At the original fiction, I mean, it's in the original fiction section, man. You can repetitive. Oh, this is all the tags. Reincarnation, fantasy system, transmigration, isekai. Okay, just say isekai then. Everyone knows what isekai is. Anti-hero magic, magic and technology, magic system, modern fantasy, novel, guns. All right, let's see. Chapter 1. Okay, chapter 1, here we go. From Neko-sama? This is a guy, right? Yes, okay. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead like a dying insect, casting harsh shadows across the concrete walls of the abandoned warehouse basement. Ryujin pulled his thin hospital jacket tighter around his skeletal frame. Interesting story about a midlife crisis. Sorry, I was busy with dinner. No worries there. No worries at all. Yeah, basically, guy has a breakdown and then immediately isekai'd after getting, like, hit by a damn plane. I can't get over just how over the top that was and how random it was. The writing also seemed, it seemed serviceable. It seemed fine. The prose seemed like it didn't stand out to me, which meant it was probably fairly good. Okay. I feel like it sold like his mental state better than the previous one. Although I feel like the prose of the previous one was technically better, but that prose of the just last one with like the 31-year-old guy reflected his like mental state a little bit better, you know? Okay. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead like a dying insect, casting harsh shadows across the concrete wall of the abandoned warehouse basement. Ryujin pulled his thin hospital-issue jacket tighter around his skeletal frame, the fabric hanging loose where muscle and fat had once been. Oh. I like this, actually. That is very... It's not too long, but very evocative, and tells you a lot already without actually expositing towards you. I like that. That's good. That's really good right there. Good intro. He hadn't had time to change clothes before Ren kidnapped him to meet him with some dark web dealer. Seriously? This is where I'm gonna die. In some creepy-ass basement that smells like a morgue. Bro, I'm starting to think this was a terrible idea. Ryujin wheezed, his voice barely above a whisper. The basement reeked of rust and a stagnant water. A metallic tang that coated his throat and made his already labored breathing even more difficult. Why is a cancer patient in like a basement, man? Huh? He's like barely alive. His brother sat beside him on an identical metal folding chair, leg bouncing with nervous energy that made the rusted frame creak. At 24, Ren still carried the broad shoulders and healthy complexion that Ryujin remembered from before everything went to hell. Before the diagnosis, before the chemo, before his body became this hollow mockery of what it used to be. You sure about this? Ren's voice cracked slightly. Then he cleared his throat like he was trying to sound more confident. Just a few more minutes, Ryu. They should be here any time now. A bit late to be asking that, don't you think? Ryu turned to study his brother's profile, the same sharp jawline they inherited from their father, now clenched tight with worry. I mean, what choice do I have? Doctors gave me 3 weeks. 3 weeks if I'm lucky. It could be 3 days, the way I feel right now. Don't say that, okay? Just don't. Yeah, kind of fucked up thing to say to your brother, man. It's kind of messed up. Ren's jaw worked silently, and Ryujin recognized the expression. Usually came right before his brother disappeared for hours, chasing down another desperate lead. Look, I'm not trying to be morbid here, Ryujin said, attempting a smile that felt more like a grimace. But let's be realistic. I'm dying either way. At least this way, there's a chance something interesting happens. He's trying so hard. Poor Blaster blames himself for not finding this sooner. Yeah, this guy. Isn't this guy? Yeah, this guy's Ryujin, huh? Weird he's saying he is trying so hard. I guess this is like his thought, but it makes it seem like he's talking about himself there for a second. Got me confused like between the narrator and himself. How much longer? Ryujin shifted on the middle chair, feeling it bite through his jeans and the skin that had grown too thin over prominent bones. You said 20 minutes. Should be here soon. Ren checked his phone for the 3rd time in 2 minutes. Maybe we should have, I don't know, met somewhere public? This place gives me the creeps. What? Like Starbucks? Ryujin let out a raspy laugh. Hey, let's discuss illegal experimental drugs over lattes. Yeah, that would have gone over well. Oh, wait, hang on, wait. Aren't they both Ryu? No, this is Ren, okay. Ryu? You okay? You're looking kinda gray. Yeah, I know. It's been a while since I got out of the hospital. Ryujin waved him off. I'm okay, brother. Truly. Dude, you're dying in 3 weeks. That's the extreme opposite from okay there, man. A lie comes so easily now. Fine. Okay. Just tired. Not much pain today. All the small deceits that make it easier for everyone else. We've come this far, Ryujin continued, his voice gaining a bit more strength. Might as well see it through. Who knows? Maybe this actually turns out to be a miracle cure. Or maybe I die faster and save everyone else the trouble of watching me waste away. Ooh. Ren studied his face for a long moment. Ryujin knew what he was saying. The yellowed skin, sunken cheeks, eyes that had receded deep into their sockets. A skull wearing a thin mask of flesh. Ren was probably wondering if Ryujin would collapse and start vomiting blood before their contact even arrived. Honestly, he wasn't far off. Who is this guy again? Ryujin asked, mostly to fill the silence. Found him through contacts at work. Ren's gaze shifted to the staircase leading down to the concrete tomb. Dark web stuff. Pharmaceutical research that got shut down. Shut down by who? Government? FDA? Maybe? All the data, all the people involved. Wiped down. Like completely erased. Official records, research papers, even in the building got demolished. Great. So either this guy's legit and got screwed by the rich, or he's completely insane. Ryujin was about to ask more when heavy footsteps echoed down the concrete stairs. Both brothers tensed, Ren's hand instinctively moving toward the pepper spray in his pocket. Ryujin just sat straighter, ignoring the way his spine protested over every small movement. The man who descended looked exactly like what Ryujin had imagined when someone said, dark web contact. Middle-aged, completely bald, a long black trench coat swaying around his legs. Okay. Wire-rimmed sunglasses that threw the fluorescent light back into the cold. All right, that doesn't sound like dark web. That sounds like you've just got hit by a honey. You've just stumbled into a honeypot and you're actually gonna take it to the back of a black van and game disappeared there, buddy. He carried a small metal briefcase. Is he cosplaying Morpheus? Seriously? Morpheus. Morpheus wasn't bald. Morpheus had hair. Even at the start when he was sick, I'm pretty sure he had hair. Also, I don't think Morpheus had a trench coat. Or sunglasses. What part of him is Morpheus, huh? Oh, wait. Wait. Morpheus from the Matrix. I'm thinking of Morpheus, the absolutely Kano movie from Sony. Wrong Morpheus. Whoopsie. Okay, yeah, no, that makes more sense. Matrix Morpheus makes more sense. How is he even seeing with those sunglasses down here? Right on time. His voice was deep, deliberate. Few people ever are. When the Milky Way is Morpheus? Morpheus from the Matrix. Hang on, let me just bring it up real quick, actually. Because it's like right on here. I did it with the wrong way. Morpheus Matrix. Morpheus from the Matrix has like an iconic look to him. Hang on, what the? There we go. Do this and that. This is Morpheus from the Matrix. You might have seen him in some memes before, in fact. Oh yeah, is this like text like big enough for you guys to read? Hopefully it is. I've already been reading for like over an hour at this point. Yeah, this is him. Bald guy, the sunglasses. He's got like a trench coat too. Badass. Let me get like a bigger full body image of him. Everything is just his face. Oh, wait, hang on. Cardboard cutout. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's like the best it's gonna get, I guess. Is that really how he looked in The Matrix? Hang on. I gotta share this. I can't remember anymore. This is like a cardboard cutout, so, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. I don't remember his suit being that purple, but I guess the movies were, like, had very dark lighting. But yes, this is, I think, vaguely Matrix from the Morpheus movie. Or, Morpheus from the Matrix movies. My god, my brain, man. And normally that suit is closed, so you don't see the purple underneath, I'm pretty sure. I swear to god, I do not remember having those, like, purple clothing. And every other picture I'm finding is, like a headshot, so. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I guess he does have, like, I don't think he was that purple, at least. Yeah, that's okay. That's very. I'm giving up on finding a better picture. Yeah, that's Morpheus. Yeah, I've seen this guy before. Hey, yeah, it's a pretty classic character. I mean, the original Matrix movie is very much classic. It's really good. If you haven't seen the original Matrix movie, I highly recommend it. I think the first time I ever watched that was actually when I was moving houses with my parents, and like. I should probably get rid of starting soon scream. I don't think that really applies right now. I probably should have switched, scenes for this, but oh well. Where is the starting? Nope, wrong thing. I don't know where this is. Oh wait, here we go. Pop. All right, there we go. Yeah, the first time I ever saw the Matrix movies was when we were, like, moving houses. I was, like, a kid at the time, and I saw it on the TV as we were moving between houses, and I just, like, and my parents were, like, talking with the realtor, and I just got caught on it for a while, you know? So, odd time to watch it, but not the worst, and I watched it, like, properly much later on. Good movie, and I watched the sequels with my parents, and those were odd movies to watch. Oddly sexual at times. Very awkward to watch with parents at moments. But overall, I'd say good. Just, they don't hold a candle to the original. And I'm talking about, like, the original sequels, too. No. The recent, like, remake sequel thing, that's, like, straight garbage, awful, trash, dump fire, forget it even existed. Pretend it's fan fiction. It basically is. All right, and back to the stories. Okay. Which browser? Which one? There we go. Yeah. Bren's voice came out tighter than usual, like it was trying not to show how nervous he was. You're with life? The man tilted his head, lips curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. Life is the name you were given. There are others. Nothing matters more than the choice in front of you. Great. Real chatty, this one. The stranger set his briefcase on a rusted table that looked like it had been hauled out of a condemned office building. The latches popped open, sharp metal clicks echoing in the date basement. Inside, nestled in pristine foam, were in 2 capsules. One blue, one... Oh, okay. I thought this was original works. Is this, like, purely... Is it just, like, taking the initial... Is it just, like, copying this specific part of the Matrix? Or is this like, actual Matrix, like, fan fiction? Because you're in the wrong section of the stories here, buddy. Ryushin almost laughed out loud. Are you fucking kidding me? A Matrix? Really? Oh shit, he's not joking about this. But the Morpheus cosplayer had a serious expression, and Ryushin could tell he was a no-nonsense type of person, just like his father. The blue pill is a placebo. The man lifted each capsule with the care of someone handling live explosives, turning them in the light so their surfaces gleamed. Sugar and food coloring, a gentle surrender. Take it and you drift back into the bed you fled from. 3 weeks at most, exactly as the doctors foretold. Ryushin's mouth went dry. Well, at least he's not sugarcoating it. And the red one? Bren leaned forward, knuckles white where he gripped his chair. The man lifted the second pill carefully, as though it pulsed with weight beyond its size. This is a possibility. My colleagues once sought to rewrite the language of cells, to push beyond the limits set at birth. Their work was erased. I salvage fragments. This capsule may rebuild you, or it may burn through you faster than your disease. He paused, letting the words settle like ash. Or... Ren's jaw clenched. Or what? Just say it! The man's glasses reflected nothing but fluorescent glare. Or you step past this veil and awaken to a truth you were never meant to see. What the hell does that mean? Awaken to reality? This guy's definitely watched The Matrix too many times. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the fluorescent light's electric buzz and distant water dripping somewhere in the darkness. Ren forced a question. Payment. What's the cost? The man chuckled low in his chest, a sound that made Ryujin's skin prickle. The cost is already written. Your decision only decides what it buys. This cryptic bullshit is getting old fast. Ren snapped. Money? Favors? Blood? Just tell us! But the man only smiled wider, gesturing toward the bills with both hands like a magician revealing his final trick. No matter what Ren said after that, the stranger remained silent, staring at Ryujin with an intensity that made his skin crawl. Fuck. Dark web weirdos. Ren muttered under his breath, then louder. Look, we need actual information here. Side effects, success rate, anything? Brother. Ryujin's voice cut through Ren's complaint. When Ren looked at him, Ryujin saw his own death reflected in his brother's eyes. This wasn't how I imagined this would go, but... Ryujin placed his hand on Ren's shoulder, feeling solid muscle and warm skin. Life? Everything he was losing. Nothing ever goes how you imagine when you're dying. I take this, or not. Nothing changes for me. I'm fucked either way. Ryu! Now, listen to me. Ryujin's grip tightened. I've already done my part. Said my goodbyes. Whatever happens next, take care of the family. Take care of yourself. Except for the love of God, stop blaming yourself for this shit. God, I hope he listens. Hope he doesn't do anything stupid after I'm gone. Don't you dare! Ren started, but Ryujin was already reaching for the red pill. The capstan felt warm in his palm, almost alive, pulsing with some hidden energy that made his fingertips tingle. He thought about the hospital bed, waiting for him, the morphine drip, a slow fade into nothing. Fuck it. What's the worst that could happen? I die. Big deal. Hey, Morpheus wannabe, Ryujin said, looking directly at the stranger. If this kills me, I'm hotting your ass for eternity. Ryu, wait! Ryujin had already swallowed it. Fire exploded in his stomach, spreading outward through his veins like molten metal. His vision blurred, the basement spinning in nauseating cycles. He tried to speak, to tell Ren he was okay, but his tongue felt thick and useless. Oh, nice little callback there to when he was trying to tell people he was okay despite clearly being not okay. He tries to do the same here, and now he even can't. All right, nice little callback there in the first chapter too. Not bad. Oh shit. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. This was a mistake. This was a huge fucking mistake. Ryu, what's happening? Ren's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Ryujin could hear his brother shouting. He could feel hands shaking his shoulders. But everything was dissolving into white-hot pain and darkness. The stranger closed the briefcase with clinical precision, each snap of the latch echoing. Interesting. Usually takes longer, too. Ryujin's world collapsed into darkness. Okay. Not so bad so far. I like it. The Morpheus is a bit silly, but that's what I kind of came to this forum for, you know? What the hell? Consciousness returned slowly, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep, dark pool. His first coherent thought was that he should be dead. His second was that something felt fundamentally wrong with everything around him. I'm alive? How the fuck am I alive? He opened his eyes and immediately sat up, a motion that should have sent waves of agony through his cancer-riddled body. Instead, he felt strong, healthy, like he could run a marathon without breaking a sweat. What the hell? The words came out strong and clear, in a voice that wasn't his own. The room around him bore no resemblance to the warehouse basement. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating a space that radiated middle-class comfort. Family photos lined the walls, showing people he didn't recognize but who somehow looked familiar. The pill worked. Am I cured? But where the fuck am I? He stumbled toward what looked like a bathroom door, muscle memory guiding him through a layout he had never seen before. His legs moved with easy confidence, carrying weight they shouldn't have been able to support. This is impossible. I could barely walk yesterday. Now I feel like I could bench press a truck. The face staring back from the bathroom mirror made his knees buckle. Light blue hair caught the morning sunlight. Pale blue eyes gazed back at him with sharp intelligence. The features were young, 16 at most, and belonged to someone who had never been sick a day in his life. What the hell? The voice wasn't his, higher pitched, stronger. That's not my voice. That's not my face. What the fuck is happening? Okay, don't panic. There's a logical explanation. Maybe I'm hallucinating. Maybe the pill gave me some kind of psychotic break. This isn't... But even as he thought, the memories that weren't even his began surfacing like bubbles rising from deep water. Jen Winters, 16 years old, orphan, living with uncle's family. They were enjoying their vacation in the city of Johann after awakening their mantles. Mantles. That name sent electricity through his borrowed nervous system. I know that word. I know it from somewhere. What, I feel like I've heard this story before? Outside of the Matrix thing, I don't know, actually. Outside of that blatant Matrix ripoff of Morpheus and the pills. No, I don't know. I haven't heard of this one. I don't think I've heard of another story that borrowed that heavily from, the Matrix. Personally, at least. That shamelessly. Hey, that's what this forum is for. Fun little stories like this. I know that word. I know it from somewhere. More memories merged with his consciousness. And underneath it all, like a half-remembered dream, something else. A story he had read dozens of times during those long hospital nights when sleep wouldn't come. No, I'm talking about the reference. It's just that the story sounds very familiar to me. Well, there's a lot of stories where people get, isekai'd into fantasy worlds, after being on death's door, where they were in our world previously. Ascendance of a Bookworm was also like that. She was basically committed to... No. Was she committed to a hospital bed, or was she, crushed by a bookcase? I can't remember which one it was for her. But, yeah, she died, and then she was transported here. There was another one where, another isekai where they're, on the hospital bed, and then they slowly die out, and then they're isekai'd as well. I can't remember what that one was. That was, an okay isekai anime. But I'm sure there's even more that I have not read, but yeah. There's quite a few where it's, people on hospital beds that end up getting isekai'd into fantasy worlds. Let's see. A story he had read dozens of times during those long hospital nights when sleep wouldn't come. Mantle of Gods. The words escaped his lips in a whisper. Sorry. Mantle of Gods. No fucking way. No fucking way in hell. A world where people awakened supernatural powers called mantles, where monsters lurked in lost zones, and heroes attended academies that trained them to fight the darkness, threatening to consume everything. No, not that. It's just that how this character is reacting to being sent to a new world is very similar to another story with a similar premise, but the main character knew where they ended up. Oh yeah, there's a couple of those too. I get the character reacting that way. Yeah, okay. Maybe it reminds you of a specific character. Yeah, okay. Okay. I feel like this is almost more common now than this. More common, people getting isekai to a world where they're at least vaguely familiar with its concept or its story. Something similar is Final Fantasy Tactics Advance actually had a story where a cripple and a couple of other kids get isekai to the Final Fantasy world after reading about the Final Fantasy world and the story in front of them. So kind of just and I love Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, but yeah, it's kind of that kind of thing, getting transported to a world where you're familiar with, or you read the story before. I'm paused for the story. That means I'll find this character annoying because the story that I'm referring to, the main character, kept annoying me. Oh. That's unfortunate. Well, maybe he'll be different. Maybe he'll be different. Hang on, we're just getting into it right now. How he's reacting. We'll see. Let's, I mean, we're only reading the first chapter and we don't have that much longer to go. Let's give him a little bit more of a chance here. Let's see. A world where people awakened supernatural powers, called mantles, where monsters lurked in lost zones, and heroes attended academies that trained them to fight the darkness, threatening to consume everything. I'm in the book. I'm actually in the fucking book. The words escaped his lips in a whisper. Pretend that was a whisper. His hands shook as more pieces fell into place. He knew this world. He had read every chapter, analyzed every plot point, memorized every character arc and power system. Jin Winters. Jin Winters. He searched his borrowed memories, cross-referencing them with his knowledge of the story. I don't remember any Jin Winters in the novel, which means I'm a nobody. A fucking extra. That's not necessarily a bad thing. He began pacing around the small bathroom, his mind racing with possibilities. Okay, think about this logically, he muttered to himself. How about you developed during all those sleepless hospital nights? I'm in Mantle of Gods. I know everything that's going to happen. Every plot point, every hidden treasure, every mistake the protagonists make. His reflection grinned back at him, and for the first time in months, it was a real smile. I can change this. I can actually fucking change this. Those 4 idiots are going to doom the world with their ego trips, but I know how to prevent it. I know where all the game-changing resources are hidden. I understand the mantle system better than anyone in this world. But first, I need to know what I'm working with. His own mantle. He closed his eyes and reached inward, the way countless characters had done in the pages he'd memorized. He'd felt for that spark of power that existed within every person in this world. That connection to concepts and legends that granted supernatural abilities. Come on. Please let this work. Please let me have something useful. The sensation was immediate, a warm pulse in his chest, like a second heartbeat made of pure potential. He opened his eyes and spoke the words that would change everything. I call upon my mantle. Here goes nothing. A blue transparent scream shimmered into existence before him, and Jin's grin widened as he read the words that would change everything. Author's note, hi, this is my first long-form written story, so please bear with me through any mistakes. You know what? As a first long written story? For a first chapter? Very well written for like his first long-form story. Good job. I mean, I assume he's done like some short stories before. I don't think this is the work of someone that's never written before, but not bad for like a start. I want to write a fun and enjoyable story. Of course, I could tell that immediately. I'll need your help to do that. If you guys have any feedback, I would love to learn from it, so please comment for any criticism. I can't promise to make all of you happy, but I'll try my best. Alright. I thought that was okay. I thought the prose was a little bit better than the previous two if I had to like rank them, because it really felt like you were in his head, you know? You got it, like, I mean, you're in the head in all of them, but I mean is it felt like the story reflected his perspective, which makes sense because it is from that first person perspective, you know? It actually felt more consistent in that regard. It felt like the tone was like appropriate. It felt like the pacing was good. You got some good hooks, some neat callbacks, even within this first chapter. I mean, if I had to do a bit of criticism right here, I felt like the Morpheus was a bit overdone. I felt like you'd have been a bit more tongue-in-cheek about it. Maybe he'll bring it back at some point, and like maybe he'll like talk back more about the real world and Ren and all that. I'll bring it back to that guy, and there'll be like a dual-layered mystery going on. It'll feel like, and they'll realize that that dude really actually is into like the Matrix, has like 7 or like 20 copies of the Matrix, and how many non-stops watch it, but it's also like a really dedicated researcher too. That could be a fun way to play with it, actually. That could be a really fun way to play with it. But the idea that he looks exactly like Morpheus 2 is a little pushing it. That would be my only critique for that. Because then you kind of like, it's a little bit too, you know, a little bit too unlikely. What's that word? Guess we'll go with unlikely for now, because I can't remember the proper word. But yeah, that's the first chapter. There's some promise. It's always hard to judge things by the first chapter. I was kind of going more by like the wording here. Also, it feels like I didn't notice any like grammatical errors or like wrong words and stuff. Maybe a few sentences here and there that could have used like a little bit of like a change to make them flow a little bit easier. It makes me feel like the guy, he definitely did proofread it, but I feel like he could have gone through and read it all aloud at least once, just to kind of like mouth through everything. That might have like, he might have made a few changes, but overall it was like really solid for like a first one. Just maybe a bit tropey, but I mean, but overall, not bad. If I had to like put one point of critique, is that we only learn about the book like after he like already gets put into it. But I mean, there was no other place to put it before, and that would have been needless exposition before. So actually, that's fine. Maybe it's like the book itself that bothers me that he talks about. The fact that it's a book where all the heroes like fail and die, and then evil rules the world. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've almost never read books like that. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure they do. It'd just be a really odd book. Yes, we follow the story of heroes. At the end, all the heroes die and the world ends. I mean, okay. I mean, there are stories like that. They're just rarer than you think, and they're usually, I mean, they're not my thing, okay? But, I don't know, maybe the Cancer Survivor, we got into, like, some really niche books somehow. And he specifically enjoyed, like, all hope in the world fading. I'm not sure why he would be into it, but that's the one thing. It feels like this is the type of story describing where all hope is lost and the world ends. We follow the heroes and like everything goes to shit. It feels like the exact opposite of story a Cancer Survivor would actually appreciate, you know, and like dedicate themselves to. That feels like the one odd point, but maybe because, I don't know, it feels like he should have like, he told us like, he dedicated himself basically to this book, reading over and over and memorizing everything, but he didn't really show any emotional attachment to that story or like pushed why he would be so into a book that feels like on its surface would be the exact opposite someone like him would be into, you know? It felt like it was just this part after he took the pill felt like it was a bit too, it felt like it picked up the pace because he wanted to end at a certain point, and so we're just kind of skipping over why he would be into such a book, you know? And then he gets to his power, and of course a blue transparent screen shimmers to like tell him what his power is. Bit tropey there, but okay, yeah, sure. It's meant to be a fun story, so I'm not gonna like critique him too hard. It's all in good fun. But yeah, not bad at all for your first series like Love for writing. Really, really good, dude. Really good. All right, let's see what else. What do I want to make my final story of the night? I did have this one open as a tab. This one is done by Mango OO. Beware the Trickster, an occult progression lit RPG. What does this mean, lit RPG? Old gods, folklore, horror. Oh, does it mean like an RPG, like a tabletop RPG, like a D&D campaign that he just turned into a literature thing, potentially? Maybe? Horror comedy, progression fantasy, steampunk, graphic violence, occult rituals and supernatural forces, profanity, Victorian era. I'd say let's look around a bit more. Let's shop around before we commit to like the final story. Okay. Empire rewritten, yeah. A self-insert novel. I'm glad he just says that on its face. You know, I can appreciate the fact that he's just very blatant about that. I appreciate that. Game of Heart and Grass. Let's refresh. Wow, these ones are really popular. Raven's daggers like popping off. Apparently this one is older work actually. Stray Cat Strap, but much. It's got like 333 pages. A young lady's journey to becoming a pop-up samurai. Waking up to the fact that you're a one-armed, one-eyed orphan, you get used to it. Being sent with a bunch of brats to some museum because they want pictures of orphans. To convince middle-aged women that the corporations running the world have a heart? Pretty lame, but that's Tuesday for you. Okay. Seeing the sky tear open and invasion alarms go off? Pretty awful. Being gifted superpowers by some all-knowing and terribly unhelpful aliens? Not as awesome as you'd think, alright? Interesting start to the story there. Let's see, shopping around a bit. I see that one like caught people's eye right off the bat. To be human. Oh, that's like actually a proper name. I feel like I've seen a novel with this name actually. M-Dragon, the ruthless lord of the Frostfall Tower, is frustrated by her inability to go to the human world and is willing to risk anything to go there. Wish is granted, but in return she must be reborn as a human. Why would she choose to remain undefeated or lose everything to start from nothing? Wish can be granted, but it comes with a cost. This is a story of a sealed god becoming human. I feel like that one, I've read the story, like that, the summary of on the back of so many books in like a bookstore. Not that I have, it just, on its face, it seems tropey to me. someone OP living amongst themselves, but actually becoming OP MC and all that. I don't know, maybe I'm just being overly critical there. It just didn't seem that captivating to me on its surface. I guess that's all I meant to say. Children of Shadow. When you catch me, Reader Mage, another lit RPG. I still gotta find out what that is. Oh, this one's got like a proper light novel like cover title. Huh? He read the novel no one else would, and now had a system to show for it. Moran Tyrell's favorite web novel, Singularity Mage, came to an end, and with it, his dream of getting into one of the most prestigious mage academies on Earth. Evaluated as a deficient, a mage who could cast no spells, Merlin could only watch as his wish to be able to protect those he loved from the dangers dungeons and towers posed was snatched away from his fingertips. It was until the author of Singularity Mage sent him a gift for being his sole reader until the end. The system of the novel's protagonist and his greatest skill, Reader Mage, now possessing the ability to analyze and deconstruct spells on the fly. Maybe, just maybe, Merlin can finally achieve his goal and end up becoming the greatest mage to ever exist. I wonder how many light novels... People really love their light novels, don't they? And like their anime. Oh wow, the young, I'm assuming guy that has no power gets the power to deconstruct every building, and just maybe he can become the greatest mage ever to exist. Maybe. Maybe, who knows? Shining Worm Trilogy. Give me something a bit more fun. Fortune's Fate. Cute and creepy adventure horror comedy about a girl who just wanted her life to be interesting. May your life be interesting. Funnily enough, with that tagline and that like short-ass description, that's probably got the biggest hook to me. Let's see what else is on this page. Aggressor hero, now I'd sleep. Aggressor trying to get him to say, wait, he doesn't care. Beware of Chicken, World of Monsters. Extra Mage. He left the spotlight behind, but some stories don't let their extras walk away. In the world of blessed bloodlines, he was never meant to matter. A minor barren son with no magical talent, no remarkable appearance, and no destiny to speak of. Just a background character who bullies the protagonist during the Archbrig Academy's early days before being expelled and discarded from the story. But by the time the tale begins, he's already been here for years. Modern soul in a fantasy novel. Reborn long before the first chapter, he chose to abandon that shell role. No villainy, no confrontation, just quiet anonymity. In a world ruled by magical rank and nobility, he lives. Okay. All right, and I thought this was supposed to be original. I am in creative works, creative writing, original fiction. All right, maybe this is just like their own character. Jake. Ruby Huntsman gone bad. Isekai again? What do you mean isekai again? Okay, this guy's isekai multiple times. Han, a young man longing to escape his mundane reality, is granted his wish to enter a fantastical world after begging a mysterious voice. But this is his third world he will be living. The one he is currently living, the one he disliked but yearned so much at the same time, and the one he gained access to thanks to his begging. He's transported to the medieval kingdom of Targonia, and he finds himself taken by the kind-hearted village chief, Tariq, in Hazenfels. Discovering unique system abilities that give him an advantage over normal people, of course. Han begins adapting to his new life, gaining jobs, skills, and equipment through many different experiences in the new world. It is unknown what kind of life it is waiting for him there, but he surely will live as he likes. Oh, at least he commits himself to like updates. The problem with these is they sell you on. They describe themselves as like a tropey, but overall could be a fun, or even really good story. But, you know, they're just tropey on the surface, so it kind of makes you, like, glaze over and want to go to the next one. They gotta sell you better on, like, the characters themselves. Like, the interesting thing of, like, why he wants... Like, if I were to write this description based on nothing else, I know nothing else about this story, I would really focus on this character on, like, his feelings and, like, why he wants to go from the world to world, and not just, like, on how he discovered this system that no one else has that gives him an advantage. You know, I feel like that would be a better hook. I feel like focusing on the character and who that character is would make it feel a lot more unique and like their unique setting rather than, oh, we discovered this unique advantage and that makes him super uber popular despite being utterly nobody before, you know, type thing. Cozy dark fantasy. The elf who would become a dragon. Cozy dark fantasy. Elves won't talk about her. They struck her name from history. Their silence tells the truth. Not the whole truth. They warned that she was a monster. Her story a cautionary tale. Not the only truth. They whispered she was brilliant, her downfall a tragedy. Not the hidden truth. They remember when she was a child, her gentleness. What did she do that the elves so revile her? Who was this woman whose story you must judge? Go west, where elves fear to tread. Find the grotto revealed by the rising sun. Only there is her story told in full. All right. That description combined with that, well, specifically calling itself a cozy dark fantasy, that's actually more of a hook for me than, like, anything I read down here. I was also, I don't know, it's still, like, it's not like a full hook. It's not like what I'm looking for. It feels like it might be taking itself a little too seriously given my mood. I'm not in the mood for, like, a fully serious story here. But definitely a better hook. And I think that's it. So I think I'm going to go with Fortune's Fate. May your life be interesting. About a girl who just wants to have fun. All right, I'm kind of curious. Let's see about the girl who wants to have fun. I like your profile picture, at least. It's very funny looking. Author's note, I decided to give the story a Space Battles version. Over the next few months, I will slowly be releasing chapters here. Basic idea is simple. A girl complains that she wishes her life was interesting, then gets cursed to have a life exactly like that. Fair enough. You know, that's actually a very fine premise. I think that's a premise I could absolutely see in, like, an anime. That'd be an absolutely entertaining, like, slice of life type show where a lot of funny stuff happens. I could see that being an absolutely great story. That's a fantastic premise. It's so simple, but because it's so simple, it's so good. I can immediately see how this would work. The story is primarily an adventure with heavy horror. Oh, all right. Not what I was expecting at all immediately. And I was thinking more of like a slice of life where crazy stuff just keeps happening to her, you know? Not an adventure story, but okay. With heavy horror and significant comedic elements, which I like to call cute and creepy. There are currently 13 chapters, but I'm currently writing a season 2, which will happen eventually. Season 2? You mean a sequel? Okay. Fire Divine lasts along with Wizard Space Program. How many editors? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 editors. Holy shit. All right, fair enough. I was thinking like it's a little girl who's like very cute and trying to get along in the world and just wishes life would be interesting, and then she has to live like a slice of life, trying to keep her life somewhat normal while also enjoying all the interesting stuff, you know, and coming to enjoy the more normal stuff of life. Also, I need to get like, my water pitcher spilled a bit. I gotta like get rid of that before it like spills. Okay, let's start. Sorry, beware the trickster. Maybe next time. Carnivals were all fun and games until someone demanded to see the manager. The confrontation occurred at the base of the Ruby Cat Ferris wheel. The ride had nothing to do with the disagreement. It merely served as a backdrop of the crimson color, adding a bit of gaudy absurdity to the confrontation. Sir, I run a hot dog cart. This much was true. The cart wasn't even all that impressive. Wooden, with fading paint and holding fewer toppings for the delectable treats that would be ideal. There were much fancier carts in numerous places around the Catival grounds that were far better equipped to meet the needs of the hungry public for reasonable prices. Alright, this already feels like it has more color to its narration than the other two, more of an identity. Not the other two weren't bad, or the other three weren't bad. This just feels like it has more of a personality, you know, in its descriptions. We'll see if it keeps it up. A hot dog cart with exorbitant prices and terrible customer service, the man shouted, glaring down at the hot dog vendor. The vendor gave him a blank stare, taking this as a challenge. The man stared back like his life depended on it. After a few seconds of this, the vendor rolled her eyes, and started licking the back of her paws. Like most of the workers at the Catival, she was a cat. You didn't! The cat twitched her pointed finger, ears, in the feline equivalent of a shrug. I did. She took a moment to adjust the red cap on her head, then marked her an official vendor of the Catival. The man forcefully gripped the front of the hot dog cart with his hands, leaning forward with enough pressure that the cart threatened to tip over. He leaned into the cart's unperturbed face. I think you should have chosen, all right, minor nitpick. Choose a different, because you already used this verb here, using it again so quickly to, you know, talk about the same action just makes it feel repetitive. Use a different verb there. He leaned into the cat's unperturbed face, slowly spitting out words like each one burned his tongue. I demand to see the manager! Dear, a woman said, grabbing the man by his sleeves. Let's leave the poor cat lady alone. The man turned to his wife. She's the one making this an issue. All I asked to see was the manager, and... That's not all you did, and you know it, the woman interrupted. She still has no reason to... Hey! He glared at the cat again. Just because I'm not talking to you doesn't mean you can ignore me. The cat raised her equivalent of an eyebrow and flicked her tail. Oh, sorry. I thought relationship-ending marital drama was happening. Leering, the cat continued. Is that still going on? A dark look came over the woman. What are you implying? The cat rammed her face into her paw. Oh no, not you too. Now the woman leaned forward, posing an accusatory finger at the vendor. What? Alright, I'm not sure what the second part of this argument is about. Huh? So he starts talking to his wife, then that's not all he didn't know it. The woman interrupted. It doesn't clarify whether it's the vendor or his wife. And then he glares at the cat and complains that she's ignoring the Kim because he's not talking to her, which is meant to be comedic, but then it adds more confusion to the fact of like who was talking here. And then it makes this line more confusing of, oh, sorry, I thought relationship ending marital drama was happening. Like, what are you apologizing for? Not saying anything when they weren't talking to you? Or did you say something? But even if you did say something, how would that have anything to do with it? Also, if this isn't her talking, then the wife hasn't said anything. So why would she think that relationship ending marital drama was happening? Why would she think that was still going on? And then when the woman implies, what are you implying? Like, obviously confused of what the fuck this cat lady is saying. Why would she go, oh no, not you too, huh? All right, I'm already confused, but let's continue. Maybe this will make more sense. A short way behind them, their daughter let out a deep, pained sigh. It looked like they weren't going to be done with this anytime soon. She probably shouldn't have asked for that hot dog. It wasn't like she had even been hungry. It had just seemed like a good treat. But, alas, it was not to be. For the cat had to be a cat, and her parents had to be her parents. Catching her father's eye for a moment, she indicated that she was going to wander around a bit. He didn't stop his rant at the vendor, but with a quick glance and a nod, he managed to communicate that she should stay within sight of them. Which she would have done anyway. She wasn't stupid. She hoisted her backpack up, setting it comfortably on her shoulders, careful not to let it rest on exposed skin. One would think she was wearing a sleeveless shirt because it was a hot summer day. The periwinkle outfit wasn't exactly light, and was so long it went down to her knees. The long blank pants under it weren't doing her any favors either. The simple fact of the matter was that she didn't have a practical or an aesthetic fashion sense to speak of. She had woken up that morning, decided she wanted to get dressed quickly, and thus ended up in her current situation. Not that she would have cared that much if she had noticed. In fact, she would have been proud of her strangeness. After all, today her shirt had a mathematical equation printed on the front, and she would be the first to brag to other kids that she knew what it meant. E to the power of X. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting little quirk there. After taking a moment to shake her head and get her stark black hair out of her eyes, she began to slow walk around the Catival, for a carnival run almost entirely by cats. It was certainly interesting that it catered mostly to humans like herself. Almost all the rides had human seats. Okay, so these aren't cat people, they are literal cats that can just talk. Good. I was getting a very confusing mental image of this. Almost all the rides had human seats, the doorways were tall and vertical, and most of the food was meant for an omnivore's palate rather than what were essentially carnivores. The most striking part about it were the pedestals all the cats had to sit on to reach the average human height level, though anyone taller than the average could still look down on the felines. The girl found herself wishing she could get up on one of those pedestals. It wasn't that she was short for her age, she was actually quite tall, but she had never liked being small, and she had waited with bated breath for the day that she didn't have to stand on her toes to look over a countertop. Here, this desire manifested itself in the not all that unrealistic thought that the cats were looking down at her as though she were some kind of prey animal. The sign that she had had enough of cats. She looked high and low for something that wasn't a cat. This was rather difficult since the entire point of the carnival was to put cats on everything and cash in on the cuteness factor. The Ferris wheel had cats, the balloons had cat ears on them, the few workers who weren't cats had cat ears sewn into their employee caps, and even the obviously rigged games used baseballs with little cat faces drawn on them. It was all a bit frustrating. Well, I'm off to bed. Good night. Good night, Obsidian Aurora. Glad you stuck around. Hopefully you enjoyed the stories a little bit at least. Hopefully this was something different I did was enjoyable to you, perhaps. Maybe I'll do it again sometime. Maybe I won't. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how I feel about this. But I hope you had a good time all the same. Hopefully you have a very good night, man. Good night. Goodbye. Bye. Wait, where was I? Right here. However, she was an eagle-eyed girl, and she was able to pick out a few stands that weren't cat-related. There was a plushie stand that sold a variety of cute, cuddly animals, most of which weren't cats, but it was still tangentially related, so she passed it over. Instead, she set her sights on what appeared to be a potion stand run by a woman with chalk-white skin and pink hair. Something about her and her sparkling concoctions just grabbed the girl's attention. Alas, she was interrupted on her way to the stand by the person selling all the plushies. Why, hello there, little one, the man said, drawing her attention. You look like you could use a new stuffed friend. The most striking part of him was on his face, a pearly white mask with 6 eye slits cut into it. His dark black suit smelled vaguely of old straw, which gave the girl pause. He took advantage of her momentary curiosity. Please, feel no need to buy anything. Just look around. I am Sir Fredoli, proprietor of this fine establishment. He gestured to the collection of merchandise. There were the usual animals, dogs, rabbit, pandas, dinosaurs, etc., and cats, of course. There are also a few unusual creatures the girl couldn't identify, such as a green orb-like creature with 5 limbs. I'm Amaris, the girl said, managing to smile. I like your name. Mosto, Fred Loy said, tilting his head to the side. Amaris mimicked the motion with her own head, finding it difficult to read him given the mask. Maybe that was the point? So Amaris, he continued. What brings you here to this feline-infested carnival? Vacation, Amaris said with a shrug. Are you enjoying your vacation? Carefully, he placed a golden teddy bear down in front of her. Amaris noticed that he was purposely hid the price tag out of her view, but she didn't comment on it. I guess. It's been nice and all, but... She glanced back at her parents, still at the hot dog stand. Her dad waved at her, letting her know she was fine where she was. She waved back before turning to Fred Loy. Well, it's not exactly the best thing ever. Trouble with her parents? You think that, but no. Amaris smirked as she turned the golden teddy bear around. Yeesh, that's more expensive than tickets to get in here. That's an expensive teddy. My parents are great. Mathematical artists, they call themselves. They just get fixated on things sometimes. Fred Loy crossed his arms, leaning on the counter of his stall, craning his ear toward her. Well, then what is the issue? Life is boring, Amaris said. In a carnival for cats where cats can talk to people, huh? Life is boring? Okay. Girls don't know how good they got it these days. They will zoomer. Flicking the golden bear in the nose and knocking it over. I've been on most of the rides already, and they aren't that different from other carnivals I've been to. Vacation's supposed to be exciting and new, but it's just more of the same. She shrugged, not exactly sure where she was going with this or why she was telling to this random guy. So your problem is one of boredom. He carefully set the golden bear back up, patting it on its head as if it were his pet. An issue becoming more common in this day and age. It seems that with progress, the mystery of the world loses its charm. What? Amaris blinked. He waved a dismissive hand. Never mind all that, young one. I suppose I shouldn't expect everyone to understand. He gestured at his wares. Please, consider yourself gaining a new friend. They do wonders to alleviate their inherent, monotony of existence. Mars was mildly surprised. Most adults didn't expect her to understand words like those. I prefer friends that aren't stuffed. They're far more interesting. But you can't take live ones wherever you go. Mars actually chuckled at the strange man's little joke. In response, she lifted her left hand, letting a living, breathing black snake out of her bag. What? The animal coiling around her arm like a rope. All right, she's already pretty interesting. I don't know if she needs to make her life even more interesting, but okay. I guess a really interesting person would find life not that interesting, I guess. The reptile was only about twice as thick as one of her fingers. But even so, Amaris had found it was always shocking to have a snake's flicking tongue inches from one's face. Freudley jumped back. What of the eight? Amaris chuckled. This is Pitch. Don't worry, he's harmless. She used her free hand to scratch Pitch under his head. I always have him with me. Most of my backpack is outfitted for him. He slithers in and out all day. Freudley was silent for a few moments. Then, slowly, he leaned in. Your parents are mathematical artists. You're clearly of above average intelligence. And your pet snake will take you with you at all times. Amaris frowned. Have you been taking notes? He ignored her question. But you think your life was boring? Amaris slowly took a step back. He's got a point there, Amaris. The jovial tone in his voice was gone, replaced with the venomous ire. I'm grateful, little brat. With swift motion, Fred Loy grabbed the golden teddy bear and ripped it in half, sending stuffing flying across the countertops. Before Amaris knew what was happening, he had thrown the bear's head in her face. It bounced harmlessly off, as a plushie should, sending sparks of gold over her face and into the air. May your life be interesting, Amaris, Fred Loy growled. Freaking, what's wrong with you? Amaris didn't wait for an answer. She backed away from the stand, more than a little afraid of this teddy bear massacring psycho. Yeah, I would be too. This guy just absolutely crashed out because an interesting girl said life was like boring. She's in an amusement park that she's been to many times before, and their parents are like arguing with a vendor. I mean, I get it in that like specific like instance and moment. I'm not sure why this adult is crashing out at a child like that, but okay. She glanced at her parents, relieved to see that they were still there, but apparently they hadn't noticed her get beamed by a decapitated plushie. In fact, as she looked around, nobody seemed to have noticed the occurrence at all. Amaris considered screaming and drawing attention to the whole thing so he would be fired. But at that point, she noticed that the potion stand was completely gone. No sign of the woman, her elixirs, or even that there had been a stand in the first place. The sudden absence unnerved Amaris enough that she decided she was done exploring for now. Keeping one eye on Fred Loy, who hadn't stopped glaring at her this whole time, she cautiously walked away until she was back with her parents. The tables had turned in the hot dog discussion while she was gone. The cat's expression was still one of a conflict between apathy and annoyance. But her parents had swapped roles. Her mom was clawing the counter's edge with her fingernails, while her dad seemed locked in a permanent facepalm. Mars decided enough was enough. Mom? Dad? You just pay for it so we can do something else? Still unnerved by an encounter, she rubbed her arm nervously. Her mom must have picked up that something was wrong because she immediately dropped the discussion. Fixing Amaris with a sad smile, she wordlessly pulled out her credit card and gave it to the cat. Kneeling down, she patted Amaris on the head. All right. I free you. We'll give in to the evils of capitalism. What were you complaining to the cat about for like ages? Were you just complaining that the prices were too high? You're in an amusement park. Of course they're gonna like gouge you. All right, her parents are actually kind of awful people, actually. They're getting mad at the staff, the literal staff, for the prices that their employer set. These people are actually awful. Amaris couldn't help but chuckle. Mom. Her dad lifted her up. An's right. We are on vacation. We can't let them rip us off just this once. We can let them rip us off just this once. The cat twitched. I can still hear you. Just dish up that hot dog, Amar said. I really don't want to get them going again. The cat lifted a paw and a half shrug and set to work. How's the cat, the literal cat, gonna dish up a hot dog? Whatever. I'm sure it's got gloves. Much longer? Holy shit, that's a long first chapter. Okay. I was expecting this would be like somewhere on the cusp of like what everything else was. This is like, I've already gone through like a quarter of it, it seems. Well, let's keep going, I guess. I feel like we haven't really gotten into it yet. It took less than an hour for the interaction with Sir Fredloy to pass out of Amari's mind. Once again, the apparent monotony of the catival drove itself into her mind. Cats, rides, food, more cats, more rides, more food, all the same. She's getting desperate for some kind of new experience, but none of the coasters or games felt like much of anything. She was trying to hide her feelings, but she knew she was failing, given how her parents kept glancing at her. They really were trying to give her the best time, going out of their way to ask where she wanted to go and what she wanted to do. It made her feel a little bad that she didn't feel excited about much of anything. Have fun, she told herself. You can have fun. That is the entire point of the catival. Have fun and they'll be happy. She must have been a smart girl, but she lacked the wisdom to know the one way to ensure a terrible time was to try and force herself to have fun. With this somewhat unfortunate mindset, she grasped a hold of the first attraction she saw and put on a smile. Look, the House of the Mirrors! The building in question was rather large for a simple house of mirrors. It had multiple stories, fancy chrome cat statues at the front, and apparently moving parts, given the soft rumbling of an engine coming from inside. Her parents, seeing Amaris light up, jumped on the opportunity like a couple of hyenas. They rushed to the House of the Mirrors as fast as they could, almost running over a passing cat in the process. Hold it! A cat said, his white pot sticking out at above chest level. The House of Mirrors is not covered with the basic cat evolved ticket. Amara's dad clenched his jaw. How much for a ticket? 50 each, the cat grinned. Now listen here, you. His wife elbowed him. She really wants to. Amaris felt her throat clench up. Dad, no, you don't have to. But it was too late. He had already handed over the money. Enough for one pass, which he handed to Amaris. You have fun in there. We'll wait out here at the exit. Like as long as you need. Explore. Have an adventure. Amaris only smiled nervously at this. We'll be waiting right here, her mom said, pointing at the exit door a few feet from the entrance door. And then you can tell us all about it. How young is this girl? I feel like I don't know how safe this world is, but it feels like you're just begging something to happen, saying you're like what? She said it was a bit too appeared for a lot of people to be too young to be using some words, so maybe like 11, 13-ish, somewhere in that range. I'd say like probably around 11. And to here alone, I feel like that's a bad idea. What if she gets really scared and doesn't know where to go? I guess they just have faith that she's really smart. I don't know. That feels like another instance of bad parenting, but okay. Apparently these people are math geniuses. I feel like they'd have money. Amaris lifted the pass in her hand. This is it, Amaris. Go in there. Have fun. You're going to have fun. You're not going to think it's boring. It's a house of mirrors. There's going to be things you've never seen before. She almost believed herself. Quickly, she hugged her parents. Thank you. With what she hoped was an excited skip, she climbed a few steps and entered the twisting maze of mirrors. She was mildly impressed with the design. She had no idea where the light was coming from, but she could see perfectly. Below and above, reflections of herself spread out to infinity, alternating the soles of her shoes with the inky sheen of her hair. Already, the mirrored walls were a lot more than just flat panes. They were beveled in and out. Some even swirled, creating a chaotic cascade of Amaris-like mutant forms in every direction. Her grin became genuine. Yes, this will work. She held out a hand and began to trace her fingers over the beveled mirrors, watching as the entire universe around her responded to her motions. Pitch slithered out of the backpack, resting on her neck. You like mirrors too? Amaris asked him. Being a snake, he didn't respond beyond flicking out his tongue. Yeah, of course, because snakes can't talk, unlike cats. Okay. Yeah, it is cool. She walked forward, bonking her head on the smooth mirror in front of her. With a joyous laugh, she turned to the left and walked down the actual path. The next hall had a moving wall, giving Amaris an appreciation for how complex light could be. Fractal patterns appeared within their reflective sheen, and the slight tilt of the mirror made it look like the room was spiraling off to infinity. Of course, at this point, she registered that the mirrors weren't perfect. None were. It was a physical impossibility. As the light reflected back and forth, eventually the deep reflections became dim and greenish. Amar shrugged and moved on, to another hall with beveled mirrors. Granted, this one had bevels on the floor and ceiling too, but was essentially the same. By the time she came to the end and climbed up a mirrored staircase, the smile plastered on her face looked more forced than legitimate. Pitch licked her face. I am having fun. She grit her teeth and continued on, forcing herself to look at every mirror, trace every beveled edge, and appreciate all the math that went into designing such a complicated structure of mirrors. Needless to say, she was ruining it for herself. Had she gone in without any need to have fun, she would have found it all delightful. Now she was so sour she started pushing on the mirrors around her a little harder than she probably was wise. For her trouble, when she traced her finger across the divide between two mirror slabs, a rough edge cut right into her finger. Ah! Mars called out, pulling her hand back. Crimson blood poured out of the cut into the reflective ground below. Oh, for the love of... Pitch slid down her arm and started licking the wound. Yeah, I bet you find that delicious, Mars grumbled. Yeah, stop this bleeding. If Mom and Dad see this, they'll yell at the cats for hours about safety violations or something equally dumb. She rested her arm on a flat mirror wall while she used her free hand to reach into her backpack. In addition, you're just reaching into her backpack as it's on your back? You're not gonna set it down? Flexible. In addition to Pitch's accommodations, she knew there was a pack of bandages somewhere in there. She could hear a soft crack. Huh? She glanced at the wall she was leaning on. It sounded like support that held the mirror in place gave way and it fell into the wall, taking a shot at Mars with it. The impact with the ground knocked the wind out of her, and the cloud of dust kicked up from the other side didn't help her breathing any. She sat up, coughing furiously. Pitch! She called out, the snake noticeably absent from her shoulders. A soft hiss from below her let her know that he was fine. She gently opened her hands and he slid back onto her, soon resting around her neck once more. With the dust clearing and her bearings returning to her, Amaris managed to stand up, coughing every few seconds. One mystery was solved. The destroyed wall revealed where the light was coming from. Shining from behind the mirrors were little light LEDs. Lights could pass through the panes in one direction, but was reflected the other way. This was fascinating enough on its own, though the realization was quickly overshadowed by what was in the newly exposed area. The space was the size of a large closet, and none of the walls were mirrors. Instead, it was black panes with numerous supports holding it up. Most of the supports were wooden, several were rotting. The one she had broken had apparently been all but dust before she leaned on it, and her weight had finally disintegrated the poor thing. Alright, yeah, I do feel like this is a safety violation. I will agree there. Their parents can be caring about that. Amaris' initial thoughts was that the area was simply an empty space in the House of Mirrors that none of the maze-like paths covered, so it had been left unfinished. However, the pedestal in the center of the room called that theory into doubt. Well, why would there be a part of the mirror room where they deliberately path you into the area behind the mirrors? That feels like that'd be dumb. She wasn't sure what it held at first, and since the only light came from the mirrored hall she had just come from, but on closer inspection, it revealed itself to her. Oh, okay. She wasn't sure what it held at first, but since the only light came from the mirrored hall she had just come from, but on closer inspection it revealed itself to her. An ornate handheld mirror with golden relief that was studded with brilliant white gemstones. Wow. Amaris picked up the mirror in her hands without hesitation, finding it to be much heavier than it looked. Idly, she wondered if it was real gold. She hefted it in her hand and traced the edge of it. Until that moment, she had momentarily forgotten her bleeding finger, minded only when she smeared the red fluid over the mirror. No! How could it be so? She never finished. Oh, of course, it activates me on blood. The blood that she so happened to, like, get cut by, and then she fell in here, and then she... Okay, yeah. I guess she was cursed. She never finished, for the mirror flashed with a silvery light. A moment later, all the blood Amaris had smeared on the reflective surface was gone, as though it had been absorbed by the mirror itself. Amaris blinked. The mirror did nothing else. As far as she could tell, it had just cleaned itself. Interesting. With a soft smirk crawling up her face, she turned around, intending to examine the mirror under better lighting conditions. To her shock, there was someone standing there. At first, Amaris thought it was just a reflection coming from one of the many mirrors in the hall, until she noticed that the girl held no mirror and was standing with her hands behind her back. It was Amaris, and yet, it was not. Whoa, Amaris said, laying her arm saying lip. Pitch let out a hiss. The other Amaris waved awkwardly. Yeah. Whoa. The two stared at each other in silence for several seconds. So, Amaris said, rocking back on her heels. You're, what, my reflection? I think so, the other Amaris said. That's So cool! They both shouted at once and proceeded to high-five and giggle like it was their birthday. Hell yay. Amaris quickly held up the mirror. A magic mirror trapped behind a wall in the House of Mirrors. Reflection nodded. Kind of weird, don't you think? I mean, who hides a magic mirror in a fun house? People come here all the time. Not the best way to keep it hidden. Very weird, but I'm not complaining. Amaris held up the mirror so they could both look at it, creating reflections of both of them. Wow, we're identical. Pitch hissed. Lane and Amaris realized that he didn't exist on the other Amaris, though the backpack did. I guess he doesn't count, the other Amaris said, holding out a finger to pet Pitch. His blood is not your blood, or something. Pitch snapped at the reflection's finger, biting down on her. She recoiled with a gasp. Dumb freaking snake! Pitch may not have been venomous, but his fangs were sharp enough to puncture skin. The duplicate's blood ran down her finger and onto the ground below. Oh, so Pitch does not like her, so she's an evil clone, probably. Amaris stared at Copy's injury with wide eyes. I'm so sorry, he's usually such a good snake. She glared at Pitch. We've been through this, Pitch. We don't bite people. Pitch loud, tense hits. He's trying to save you, girl! We're not arguing about this. You can't argue with the snake, the Copy said, applying pressure to the finger with the other hand. Just an animal. Yeah, unlike the cats. Mars put her hands on her hips and let out a huff. So what? Pitch is amazing. Right, whatever. The reflection locked her hands behind her back. Maybe he just doesn't like seeing two of you. I don't see why. This is like the best thing ever. And Mars beamed at her counterpart. Think of all the things we could do with the two of us. The brains we could pool. And two brains better than one. I bet we could figure out that weird integral Dad left for us back home. Sure is exciting, isn't it? Reflection fixed Mars with a blank stare. Well, yeah. Not boring in the slightest. She turned her back to Amaris, taking a moment to trace the edge of a mirror wall with her finger. It's what you wanted, after all. Amaris paused, tilting her head. You know, you're right. This is what I wanted. Yes. So dissatisfied with your life, they couldn't even have fun at a carnival. All right, now why is the reflection acting weird in retrospective and like judging her when before at the very start it was acting exactly like her? Huh? The reflection tapped her foot as though she were impatient. What? Amaris frowned. Are you okay over there? I'm only as okay as you are. She flipped around, grinning so widely that made Amaris uneasy. You messed up, Amaris. Your parents got worried. Oh, my parents! Amaris gasped. How are they going to deal with two of me? The duplicate laughed. The Mars dropped her fake concern and kicked her doppelganger in the stomach, knocking her to the ground. Oh shit, okay, she called it. She called the evil clone thing. Mars had been prepared for this from the beginning. After all, blood-absorbing mirror? That just screamed evil. Yeah, that's why you high-fived your clone. Surely your clone couldn't have just taken advantage of you there. Oh, dumbass. No. Don't play like you knew this from the beginning. You only figured this out when this, Pitch bit her. Amaris had hoped it was just a pure duplicate, but it clearly wasn't the case. While the reflection was recovering from the shock of being kicked, Amaris took a run back the way she had come through the House of Mirrors, already accessing her mental map of the place and working out the fastest escape route. She gripped the magic mirror tightly in her hand. Pitch hissed in her ear. Yes, you were right, Amaris huffed. But hey, this looks exciting, right? On the run from an evil doppelganger. The doppelganger in question stepped out of a mirror in front of her. Alright, so it has mirror powers. Mars attempted to skip to a stop, but the slick mirror floor was of no help. The doppelganger grabbed her by the shirt collar, bringing the two of them face to face. The doppelganger's grin remained. Yes, you're smarter than you look, but I'm afraid... Amaris kicked upward as hard as she could. The doppelganger may have been a monster, but she still had Amaris' body. The force of impact was enough to make her lose her grip. Scrambling, Amaris pushed her legs as hard as she could. Despite a few slippery slips, she managed to get her footing and bolt. Ha! She allowed herself a constant. You can't catch me! The doppelganger grabbed her by the backpack, stopping her flight in an instant. Instead of laying out a biting remark, the reflection only growled. With a shove, she thrust Amaris into the mirror in the floor like it was some kind of thick liquid. Oh shit, well, they did the doppelganger thing. Yeah, now you're the reflection, haha! With a panicked flail, Amaris grabbed hold of her counterpart's collar, dragging her into the mirror as well. No! The doppelganger shouted. I'm not going back! She planted her feet and resisted Amaris' pull, all the while using a free hand to pry Amaris' fingers off one by one. Amaris felt the strange, sharp nature of the mirror past her stomach. She could no longer feel her legs at all, as though it had been numbed with an anesthetic. Soon her arms would go under, and then her head, and then she might not be able to keep hold any longer. In desperation, she swung the magic mirror at the doppelganger. She paled. You idiot! The magic mirror shattered, and so did the mirror Mars was failing into. Suddenly, the feeling returned to her legs and feet, but now she was falling in utter darkness. Looking up, she saw her duplicate falling as well. And above her, there was a white square of light quickly receding from view. Mars quickly became aware of the painful pounding of her heart now that there was no noise from the struggle. It was deafening. Somewhere in her mind, she recognized that her heart was incapable of making noise of that volume. It was just her panic and adrenaline mixed in with the absolute silence of her surroundings that made it seem as such. This did little to quell the feeling that there was a drum in her chest trying to break out through her ribcage. She was fortunate the shock of falling and the intensity of her own heartbeat distracted her because it allowed her to land perfectly on her chrome slide below. Huh? How did getting distracted allow you to land perfectly? But whatever. Had she been angled a different way, she could have easily broken her neck. As it was, the gentle slope rose up to meet her and carried her down. Contact with the slide shook her to her senses. Above there was darkness, but below there was a field of chrome covered in spikes, slides, and unusual geometric shapes that was higher in the sky than any building Mars had ever seen. Everything she saw on the journey down was perfectly clean and smooth. It looked like they could have been taken right out of a math textbook. The incline the slide gradually shifted until it was almost flat, depositing her on an expanse of chrome that served as the ground for this strange realm. It was so smooth that there was only the slightest amount of friction, so she went sliding for several dozen meters on the expanse. It was at this point that Mars realized that she had no reflection here. The chrome structures acted like she didn't exist, only reflecting each other. Not her, and not the doppelganger sliding a short ways behind Amaris. That's a neat little trick. Go into this description of everything around her, draw you into the headspace of the main character, and then go into the sudden realization that the clone's behind her, and then ramp up the tension immediately. Amaris sensed up. She was in the alien realm, alone, and with that thing. She needed to get up and do something. She was moving slow enough now that she could get her feet under her. But that was about the extent of what she could do. Wobbling, considering, and with her arms extended, it took all her effort just to keep from falling over. The doppelganger didn't even bother getting up. She remained on her back, arms splayed, only lazily looking at Amaris as they slid along the chrome field. You idiot! You broke it! You broke everything! Mars glanced at the magic mirror. It was still in her hand. There was only a few shards of the actual mirror in it now. The bare golden backing dominated its appearance. Now we're both trapped here, doppelganger ground. Forever stuck in these pillars of chrome. I'm sure there's a way out, Mars said. There isn't. The doppelganger audibly ground her teeth. That mirror was it. Now it's busted, and this prison is eternal. Don't talk like that, Mars stammered. I'm sure if we work together, we can put aside our differences and work together. The doppelganger snorted. You naive, foolish child. She flopped over into a reclining position, fixing Amaris with a condescending expression. The only reason I'm not flaying you open right now to satisfy my need for revenge is because it will be much more entertaining to watch you starve to death. She narrowed her eyes. I'm going to get every ounce of entertainment out of you I can before you die horribly, Amaris. Why? Mars stammered. Because you were my one chance of getting out of this prison. The doppelganger shouted with such intensity that Mars could see the veins in her throat. We could have swapped places, and the right would have been satisfied. I would have been free, but you stopped that, and you will pay for that. And Mars forced herself to swallow. But what if there is a way out? Maybe we can... I've always hated people like you, the doppelganger said, finally spending the effort to rise to her feet. Arrogant little morons who think they understand how life works. She let out a bitter laugh. Guess what? It's not what you think it is. It is a cruel, brutal, violent, and will chew you up and spit you out. She pointed an accusatory finger to Mars. How's your boredom level now? Mars couldn't say anything else. She widened her eyes. Something about seeing the tear switched something within the doppelganger. Pathetic. Wait. Mars made the attempt not to break down in tears. Oh, pathetic. Mars made the attempt not to break down in tears. She knew this was a dangerous situation, that she needed to stay on her toes. But as strong as plucky as she was only a kid. Her composure fell and she started bawling. In the process, she lost her footing and fell painfully to the ground. The doppelganger scowled. Shut up! To her credit, Amartis did try. She tried to quiet herself and do as the monster standing across from her said. Her attempts, however, were futile. I said shut up! The doppelganger ripped off her reflection off her Mars backpack. No? The doppelganger ripped off her reflection and slammed it into the ground, shattering much of the chrome below. Shut up or you die early! Mars' breath caught her throat. She attempted to hold her breath, but her breathing was too ragged, too uncontrolled. All she could do was look up at her counterpart with red panicked eyes. Die early it is! The reflection picked up a shard of the chrome off the ground, gripping it hard enough to drop blood from her hand. With a surprising burst of speed, she slid across the chrome plane like an ice skater angling right for Amaris. Amaris could only move in a panic. She jumped up at just the right time to avoid the attack entirely. Sheer fortune, all that kept her from a stab through the stomach. The doppelganger growled. She had to skate around in wide arc to go around from the pass at Amaris. By this time, Mars was already moving away, her instincts from ice skiing on the lake back home taking over. Where are you running? Amaris was not in any state to fully consider those words. All she knew was that she had to run. Everything depended on it. She slid forward, placing one foot on the ground at a time, skating through the endless chrome. There's nothing here but you and me. This cracked the doppelganger's voice. All this running does is give me exercise. Amaris looked around frantically for something she could do. In her state, all she could take note of were the chrome shapes zipping by, and of course, the creature looked exactly like her in pursuit. The only difference between them being the busted magic mirror and the backpack. The backpack! A spark went off in Amari's mind, giving her some control back. The doppelganger was gaining on her because she no longer had the backpack and weighed less. If Amara stumped it, she realized with horror that Pitch had taken refuge inside the backpack. If she discarded it, she would leave him with it. I'm not abandoning him. With newfound fervor and determination, she rolled around to face the back. Welcome back, Pixel Foxy. We're still going through this last little story here. She's gotten pulled in by the doppelganger into the reflection dimension where everything is chrome. Went to go get some dinner and a drink. Oh, nice. I'll probably have a snack after the story myself. Ban that bot on you Twitch side of things. Oh. But yeah, we're just currently doing, typical things here. Doppelganger's trying to kill her. She got trapped in Mirror Realm, which is apparently all chrome. Just like everything in the future, all chrome. Future. And it doesn't seem like she's in a bit of a bind. She has nothing else, nowhere to go. And she's slower than her clone because she has like her backpack with Pitch in it. Her little snake that she can't abandon. So her clone is catching up. With newfound fervor and determination, she rolled around and faced the doppelganger. She was still crying and more terrified than she had ever been, but her mind was her own again. As she slid backward, she focused her gaze on her copy. What was that sound? Oh, Mirror Realm. Yes. It's a classic Mirror Realm doppelganger situation. I've read about these before in like Goosebumps, I think. I think Goosebumps had a book like this once. It was a decent one. I think it's like people trapped like in from previous histories as well. Yeah, it's a classic. Trading places with the reflection. With newfound fervor and determination, she whirled around to face the doppelganger. She was still crying and more terrified than she had ever been, but her mind was her own again. As she slid backward, she focused on her gaze on her copy. What are you gonna do? The doppelganger shouted as she neared. Fight me? Something like that, Amaris called, somehow managing an awkward smile in the process that only made the doppelganger angrier. With that twist of her waist, the beast hurled herself at Amaris. By the way, the beast is still just a clone of Amaris. The chrome spike aimed for her heart. Here goes. Amaris swung the magic mirror, hitting the chrome spike dead on. The spike easily thrust through the golden frame, but that wasn't what Amaris had been concerned about. She just wanted to make sure the doppelganger's blood touched the few remaining slivers of the reflective surface. The mirror absorbed the doppelganger's blood. I'm not sure how? Okay. Yeah, sure, why not? Doppelganger's fate twisted into one confusion. I'm kind of lucky. There's only like a few slivers of the original like mirror left, and there's only the spike that she's carrying only has like some blood going down it, so she had to get that aim like right on. But okay. But okay. Now the magic mirror that created the doppelganger in the first place by her blood on it is now absorbed the blood of the doppelganger. So we'll now get the doppelganger's doppelganger. Let's see. The mirror absorbed the doppelganger's blood. The doppelganger's face twisted into one of confusion. What will that do? I don't know. Before Mars could finish, the chrome beneath her gave out, becoming akin to syrup. No! That was shouted as the chrome spike was torn out from her grip by the sudden motion. No! She tried to dive after Amaris, but Amaris was already through, and the floor became solid once more. Wait, what? Wait, Amaris? Wait, what? Where did Mars go? Before Mars finishes, the chrome beneath her gave out, becoming akin to syrup. Okay, so just the chrome beneath the original Mars and not the clone. All right, so specifically the chrome, despite everything being chrome, the chrome beneath Amaris turned to syrup, and the doppelganger tried to jump to chase after her, but too late. The floor became solid, little idiot. Amaris, all right, so Amaris was already through, and the floor became solid once more. Amaris made out tears forming within the doppelganger's eyes before it loosed inside of her. That haunted, agonizing expression stuck in her mind as she fell through the darkness, the kind of face she wouldn't forget for the rest of her life. As she was still reeling from what had happened. Oh yeah, by the way, this doppelganger is now cursed to live out the entirety of eternity in this, like, chrome, closed-off dimension. Have fun. With nothing in it, Amaris fell out of a mirror onto a hard wooden floor. The mirror itself was tall, the kind that was set up in a bedroom or dressing room. Given the sheer number of clothing racks around Amaris, it was probably the latter, though she didn't care too much about this. All she cared about right now was that it wasn't the chrome place. With haggard breathing, she lay there, motionless. Her chest was pounding like a soldier's march, and every breath felt like a relief. Good description right here for her. I've never heard that before. Very evocative, actually. She couldn't think, she couldn't move, she just focused on calming herself down with what little she could have scraped together for what felt like an eternity. In time, however, she became more and more aware of herself, though it wasn't until Pitch licked her face that she bothered to sit up and wipe her eyes, holding Pitch close. We're alive. Pitch hissed in response, his tiny tongue flicking out to taste the air. Carefully, Amaris picked up the magic mirror. There were no shards of the reflective surface left. Now it was just a hunk of gold and gemstones, with the hole stabbed through it. Pretty, possibly valuable, but not magic. Amaris let out a sigh of relief. It would no longer be a problem. I guess it worked backwards with her blood. Amaris said more to herself than to Pitch. And? No chrome spike. I guess I can't exist here. She turned to stare at the upright mirror they had popped out of. She saw a reflection. It unnerved her, slightly, seeing the red around her eyes and the bloodshot veins around her irises, but she knew it was her. Or really her. And that was enough for her. With that immediate issue sorted and out of the way, she was now able to process the fact that she was in some kind of rest room and not a house of mirrors. She took in a sharp breath, realizing she probably wasn't supposed to be in here, wherever here was. Carefully, she stood up, finding the only exit to the room, a large oak door. With the intent of being as quiet as possible, she lifted up Pitch and placed him in the backpack, putting the remnants of the magic mirror in there too. Moving on her tiptoes, she approached the door and put her ear to it, intending to listen for anyone on the other side. The moment she did so, a key turned in the lock and the door flew open, revealing a fat man in an expensive-looking tuxedo. He looked just as shocked to see her as she was to see him. He recovered first. "What are you doing in my closet, urchin?" "I came out of the mirror." Her instinct to tell the direct truth in the face of question, while admirable, was perhaps not the best option at that juncture. With a disgusting scowl, the man grabbed Amaris' shoulders with his grubby hands. "You? Little? How about you just throw me out of the house and we can forget this ever happened?" The man's eyes are narrowed. "I'm not one to take lightly to trespassers." Mars saw quickly. "Right, how about we call my parents and you can tell them all about how I was locked in this closet bawling my eyes out?" The man frowned. Without a word, he lifted her up like she weighed nothing. "Is that a no?" The man said nothing until he took her to the front door. He opened it and threw her out of onto the pavement. "I better never see you again!" He slammed the door forcefully. All right, so as soon as it's like put through a random mirror, it seemed like, whoops. Amara stood up, rubbing the scrape on her arm the pavement had given her, not planning on sticking around. She walked down the driveway, past the rather fancy black car that presumably belonged to the man. Taking the sidewalk, she found herself shivering. It sure was chilly out. With a frown, she looked up. It was still midday. Midday in what should have been the middle of summer. Why was it so cold? A sinking feeling began to form in her stomach. It became a twisted knot when she found a newspaper sitting in a driveway, wrapped in plastic. The address printed on the plastic called the city she was in Ambivalence. She had no idea where that city was. "You're lost in a city you don't know. What are you supposed to do?" Mars took in a deep breath and continued walking. looking for someone who looked approachable. Her parents had warned her about strangers, so she made sure to be careful with who she approached. The first man she saw wore a leather jacket and had massive muscles. She had made sure to steer clear of him. When she came across a woman in glittering and gaudy red dress, she decided much the same. Rich people were often the craziest. Well, that and the homeless. However, eventually she entered an area of town that wasn't populated by rich people and fancy houses, but was instead a more traditional suburb. People looked more approachable here. There were even a few kids playing ball along the green lawns. But she wanted to be sure. Someone who would help a child in need and know not to ask too many questions. Why do you care about people asking questions? Like, why are you hiding secrets? Tell them everything. I mean, sure, they might seem you're crazy, but you just need to find your way back to the parents, man. It's not like you're going to give them knowledge that will destroy them. Just, yeah. Don't have to be too picky here. You're just trying to find your way home. Assumingly, you're not lost in, like, another dimension again. At long last, she found an old woman sitting in a rocking chair out on her porch, kneading away while humming a calming tune. Taking a deep breath, Amaris marched up to her. Excuse me. Can you direct me to the police station? Oh, okay, just a little bit left. The old woman had offered to drive her, but Amaris wasn't exactly keen on trusting strangers right then, even if they were seemingly nice old ladies. The woman seemed to understand, so she had given Amaris the directions and told her to be careful. Amaris was. She made eye contact with no one and kept herself in open, easily visible spaces the whole time. After about 20 minutes of walking across sidewalks and various crosswalks, she arrived at the police station without incident. She walked up to the counter where a large black man sat, reclining in its chair. Piled up on his desk were several boxes of donuts, all with bows on them, and with a few "Happy Birthday" scribbled on the sides. None of the boxes had been touched. "What can I do for you?" the officer asked, leaning over the counter to get a good look at her. Hi, Amaris followed. I'm Amaris Kelvin. My parents are Dimitri Kelvin and Anastasia Kelvin. I don't know where I am or how I got here. Can you help? Cop's expression changed from one of laziness to one of determination. I will do everything I can. He turned to his computer, bringing up a database. Address? 4219 West and Adderstone Avenue, Nook, Yeshalo. We were visiting the Cataville in Junetown. The officer frowned. That's an out-of-country address. I won't be able to look that up easily. Amaris blinked. Out of country? How did I get out of country? That is a very good question. He scratched his chin. This might take a while. He pulled out a donut box off the stack and handed it to her. Here, have this. Go sit in one of the chairs over there. I'll let you know if I find anything. Amaris nodded, taking the box. Thank you. She sat down and pulled out a maple bar, biting into it. She made sure to give a crumb to Pitch as he poked his head out of her backpack. She watched the officer as he entered query after query into the computer. After that, he pulled out a cell phone and started calling people, asking for more records from other places. Amaris grew especially worried when she overheard him say, "What do you mean it doesn't exist?" Amaris looked down at her box of donuts. She bit her lip. How am I going to get home? She looked out the window at the cold day outside. The wind blew out through the trees, offering her no help in her plight. The longer the officer tried to find her home and her parents, the more Amaris got the unpleasant sense her life was never going to be boring again. Okay, so she got thrust into a whole new world. Well, I mean, she was kind of a fantasy world. Maybe now she's in, like, a normal world? Then again, if the story wanted to make the point, like, now she's in a normal world, but before she had been in a fantasy, let's see. And there was a newspaper here earlier. Let's see. Ambivalence. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a city that would exist here in this world. I mean, I'm sure there might be, but maybe it's something the author knows. But I don't think that's a city here, so I think she's just in another fantasy land. So I think this is gonna be her going through like world after world, just being like driven by crazy events and doing like on a plucky adventure as the super smart lady who's born to like super smart parents finds her way through and just like use her plucky skills to like overcome her challenges, which I think is a good story. I think it's a kind of a more of like a traditional Western story, actually. This is a story I'd expect to find as like a young adult's book section when I was like a kid, you know? Cool? Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. This story really reminds me of the type of books I would see when I was a kid and maybe I'd read. One of the books I read was like a book about like a girl who learns the power of hypnotism, her and her like friend. And this is actual real hypnotism that can do like crazy stuff. and very few people know about it. And she goes on wacky adventures, like, to try and, like, find her place and all that. And there's a bunch of, like, hidden, like, tricks, and there's a bunch of, like, subversion and all that, and cuts, and, like, mind games, of course, as well with the hypnotism. And it kind of reminds me of that book. Lady goes on a plucky adventure, everything goes absolutely bonkers wild for a while. I'd say this is a pretty traditional, pretty neat story. Something I could absolutely see myself reading if I was a kid again. Absolutely. My initial thoughts on it were basically biased because of anime, where I was thinking more, basically the idea of someone who had a boring life, who wished it would not be boring, then be cursed with an extremely exciting life. That, to me, on its premise, felt to me more like an anime story, where like a slice of life girl in a normal world, or seemingly normal world, wishes her life was interesting, and suddenly her life becomes more and more fantastical, and she's just getting caught off guard. But everyone around her treats it as normal, so she starts to wonder if, like, has life always been fantastical and I just never was exposed to, like, the more fantastical elements, or is life changing, and how am I gonna, like, get through all this crazy stuff happening? That's how I might thought. So she's basically being thrown into a whole new world. Basically, Wilty should become a voice actor. You'll do great. Aw, thank you. I think my voice is just okay. I don't know, I kept, like, screwing over my words there and, like, messing them up. I don't often read out stories. I'm more of like a in my mind type thing, but it is fun occasionally. I do love going through stories, man. It is neat to see. Once I get caught up in them and all that. I'd say out of all the stories we read tonight, I think this one showed the most promise, both in its prose and in its concept. I could easily see this being like an actual published book, you know? I'd say my voice is just okay. You know, I haven't gotten I've never heard anyone complain about my voice, really. Oh, I guess I have a couple of times, but I mean, like, I feel like that's well, I feel like my voice is kind of more average, so, I've had friends that get, like, I feel like I'm biased because I've had a friend who I've played online games with, who he has a voice that's very distinctive and very low, and so anytime he talks in voice chat, there's basically a coin flip of whether or not someone else in the game will start complimenting his voice, you know? So maybe I am a bit biased because I'm just friends with someone who has a very distinctive, very good voice, but I think my voice is just okay. But I guess you don't have to have a crazy good voice to be a voice actor, true. Maybe I'm being a bit too focused on that. I have been trying my best with voices, I'd say, and voicing all different characters' inflections as I, like, play through games. It is fun. I think the more crazy I make the characters, like, the more out there I make their voices, the funner it is for me. Like when I did, what was it? The capitalism game. Reciteer, right. Reciteer was fun because it gave everyone, like, very stupid voices, and it was great. My only problem is I feel like I have a very limited repertoire in terms of all the different, like, silly voices I can do. So then I'm scrambling to try and find some ways to differentiate any new voice that comes along. And then I have a hard time remembering of what little ways I did, or, like, what little tweak I did to a voice to make it unique for a character when they come back up again. So I feel like I have to make them silly just to make them memorable for me, so I, like, don't forget. But it is fun. I really have a lot of fun with it. Under Deltarune, I guess, specifically. Deltarune, I also had a lot of fun doing, like, specific, like, voices for characters, too. That was a good time. That's, like, one real nice part of the stream, is it gives me an excuse to, like, voice act characters and all that, too. Which is, surprisingly way more fun than I thought it would be, actually. I've really enjoyed it. That's been a nice surprise from streaming, I'd say. Alright, let's get this out of here. Overall, I guess I should get more in-depth thoughts on this before I say goodbye. I guess I haven't. What can I say? The prose is good. Concept is really good. I mean, it follows through on its premise fairly well. The first chapter goes, it's a bit long of a first chapter, but it goes, I think this is more like a standard novel first chapter length instead of, you know, like forum first chapter length, you know, like the others. And she even, in the whole first chapter, she faced her first obstacle, got over it, and then got to the real cliffhanger. That is a solid hook. Now, it does take its sweet time getting there a little bit, I'd say. You know, with the whole stall thing and going up and talking about how boring everything is. I'd say, like, it kind of... I guess it makes sense that she would find things boring if she's, like, so above it all and Fantasy World is interesting. But yeah, overall, not bad at all. If I had to say anything, I'd say there were at points where the stream was a nice change. I'm happy to hear it. I'm always looking to try and see if I can, like, freshen things up a bit. I don't want to just, like, spam games. Obviously, I also want to, like, present my own writings, too. That's part of why I'm streaming, is to try and, like, push myself and to give myself a platform to actually share writings that I make. But, creating those writings in the first place is more of a challenge than I thought it would be. But yeah, that's kind of the purpose of the first place. Still, it's good to freshen things up. I don't want to just, like, spam games and nothing else, because I worry that that's not too interesting, you know? Also, especially because I can't, like, play the newest, hottest games, you know, like Silent Hill. Because I'm not an infinite money pit, man. I can't just sink all my money into just buying the newest game to, like, stream it. So, I also want to do some other things. If I can't, like, stream the newest games that people are interested in, I gotta, like, look for other ways to keep things interesting, too. There were a couple of points in the story where I felt like the prose was starting to get a bit repetitive. Like, right here, I think is the... Just looking at it, you can see it's all the paragraphs are vaguely enough like the same length. The sentences are generally the same length, I'd say. Yeah. Some of them are slightly longer than others, but they don't really, like, change things too much. I mean, it makes sense from, like, a meta-narrative perspective, because this is from her perspective. This is the first time you're actually introduced to her perspective, and she's bored with everything. So it makes sense everything's in a more repetitive, like, tone. So it does make sense there, but a tiny nitpick. And then the talk with the vendor, it goes on for a little bit. It's a bit strange, but okay. I mean, it doesn't really introduce us to the world she starts in, is the thing. If that is a tiny critique as well. It starts in a fantasy world. It doesn't start in a regular world. It starts in a fantasy world where cats can talk, you know? And she's at a catival. And so that inherently raises questions. Like, because cats can talk in this world, is that the only thing that's different? Is she familiar with magic? Does she believe that magic exists? What's the limits of magic? And all these things are kind of important when she's going through obstacles and challenges like facing a magic mirror that creates doppelgangers of her. How crazy is this to her? Is it completely mind-bending, upending her idea of reality? Or is it kind of more of just an extremely unfortunate circumstance? You know? That's one little nitpick I'd have. It introduces magic and has her conflict with magic, but we don't know her experience with magic, even though it's implied that she could have some, considering she starts off in a fantasy world from the beginning. So, a little bit of a snag there, you know? Assuming that she hasn't mentioned any magic or her potential for magic, I assume that there is no magic. Maybe the only thing that's different in her world is that cats can talk. That seems to be the only difference, and they have catavals. Apparently, it was a crazy idea to her that, you know, dogs could talk, so, or other animals. So apparently, cats are the only animals that can talk. Maybe that's the only difference? Who knows? I'm betting that, and it seemed like magic was as foreign and fantastical to her as magic is to us as well. Although that's like a bit of a read. It could go, honestly, the author could decide either way at any point. It would still make sense, really. He could just like have a line hand waving things. It does cause a bit of questions for like this first bit of tension though, but overall, solid intro. Really good. It even had like a nice little like scene set up as well, where she's in this like chrome world as well. It didn't go too far into the expository in her mind mental dialogue that a lot of stories get into. You kind of want to describe more actions than you do want you know, mental dialogue. You want to be more focused on action, what characters do, what they are, what's happening, rather than like what they believe things are, and, you know, what their opinion on things is, what their current mental state. Mental state is important, but you can also describe it, like, through actions as well, or imply it. I feel like the more you describe things in a way that's obvious to a third-person perspective of a character, the more immersive things will be for a reader, you know? That's just, like, personal perspective. Maybe I'd change my mind if I, you know, wrote actually more, you know? I feel like a lot of stories get into that bad habit of just having everything be a mental dialogue with the character. But overall, once they got past the vendor scene, actually, once she got to the magic mirror, then things really started to pick up and got to high gear. Yeah, not a bad story. No wonder. This is like a full-fledged story too, I believe. He said so at the start. Okay, basic idea. Currently 13 chapters, but you're writing the season 2. Okay, so it's not even done. This is basically an episodic adventure story, I get the feeling, where this girl kind of goes through things, and that is one thing. There might not be, that might be a critique that might pop up later. There might not be a whole meta narrative. Sure, there's a whole thing of her appreciating life as it is and, you know, finding the joy in a not so exciting life, perhaps. Maybe that could go that way. It hasn't really solidified what the overarching arc for her character arc is going to be, hasn't solidified what the meta narrative or the overarching arc, like, for the plot is going to be, if it's going to be about just going home, or if it's going to be something else that's going to be set up later. But for right now, her goal seems to just be, I gotta go home. And I gotta, like, live through all these, like, crazy stuff that's happening. Okay. And this was made by GM Seskai. Not bad, man. Not bad. And all of his editors, Shilik Pinkman, Good Ringer, Void Templar, Ebony Sable. Good job. Alrighty. But with that, I think we shall cut it. Like I said, tonight was going to be a shorter night. I hope you guys enjoyed this little read through all the different stuff. I hope you enjoyed my little additional rant on Facebook games. And I hope you enjoyed something a little different from the usual. Hopefully my voice wasn't grating at all. Hopefully that was fine to have, even if only in the background. Hopefully I didn't stumble over my words too much for you. Dear God, it was getting annoying to me, man. But it was good practice, I guess, for that. GM Sky, well done. Strong start to the story? Hell yeah. Of course, always more to be improved, but that's all. Some of it's not a lot of it's down to personal preference too, so, you know, but, take it as is. It's a fine story as is. I could easily see it being published, and that's a huge mark of honor for a forum story. Reminder, this story was published on just like a forum called Space Battles. And there's tons and tons of other stories, like we saw tonight, that small snippet of stories just like it that are published there. And some of them are more silly and more for fun than others, and some of them are far, far more serious. I don't know, it's a neat site to just dive into from time to time. I don't normally have the time to go into and start reading all these stories, which is why I'm happy I can make it part of stream and share it with you guys, because that way I can make time for it. And I feel like it's, you know, at a grander purpose than just for myself. Facebook, good night, Will. Think Will, good stream today. Thank you. Hope you had a good night to yourself. Facebook games were such a nostalgia. Yeah, man. I need to do another deep dive into a Dungeon Overlord to see if anybody out there has made a emulated version of it, or another new version. I appreciate the Facebook games rant. The Petville and Farmville themes are still up too. Ooh, I listened to them as the stream began. Ah, nice. Let's see, the Petville and Farmville. I never played Petville at all. I never even looked at it. Let's see, what was the Farmville theme? I'll bring that up real quick. Hang on, let me cut the music for this. This is important, of course. Oh. Yeah, that's pretty relaxing. Yeah, even Quill likes it. That is so, in some ways it feels so early, like 2000s. For like a farming simulator, like Facebook game to have this as music. It feels nostalgic even if I never listened to it originally, you know? You know, it's just that kind of feeling to it, that old. Nice. All right. I listen to them as the Petville theme goes like Petville, do 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 Petville, tweety dee dee do Petville. Everybody come down Petville. I gotta look this up, man. That sounds fucking funny. Petville theme, let's go. Is this it? Facebook games music. There's a whole channel dedicated to Facebook games music. Oh hell yeah. It's very relaxing while harvesting and planting the game. Oh yeah, that Farmville like scene was actually like a 10 out of 10. That was like amazing for like a farm. Well, maybe not 10 out of 10. Maybe that's a bit hyperbole, but it was still really, really good for what a Facebook game. Absolutely insanely good. It's like a short version. All right, let me see if I can find it then. Petville theme tune. Oh, here we go. Original Petville theme tune. There we go. This is it. Hell yeah! Let's go down to Petville and see that again. Petville. 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 They just don't make them like they used to. Short and to the point. I mean, yeah, it pretty much is. Damn short and to the point. It reminds me of old, like, Digimon music where they just had to say Digimon throughout all the music in every theme song. Digimon. Like, all the old, like, 4Kids dub for anime had to say. They had to say. It was like a clause in the contract. The name of the anime that they were dubbing. Constantly throughout the song. It even affected, like, Power Rangers. Power Rangers. Power Rangers. Everything has to say the name. Everything. It was like an early 2000s thing, I guess. Maybe. All right, let's get this music going, because it's time to say goodnight, everybody. Thank you for stopping by, everyone, for seeing me do my little thing, go and do something a little bit new for a change. Hopefully it was still entertaining enough. I just thank everyone who stopped on by, specifically by name. On the Twitch side of things, thank you, Embers, for the stream, for dropping on by. Thank you, Norilla VT, for the raid as well. I very much appreciate it. I hope you do complete your living decks. Hopefully it's not too much of a grind. I'm sure it's quite an undertaking. Thank you as well for Beaky Kitten and all other raiders who raided in, even if you were only lurking. Thank you, Jackie Likens, for actually giving me a shot here tonight. I appreciate you, even if I think you were just coming here to advertise yourself after giving me some questions. But I still appreciate you actually interacting with stream too, and not just straight up throwing out your advertisement at the start. I do appreciate that. And thank you, DX Nomad, for getting all cozy tonight. On the YouTube side of things, it's sad that a lot of games became lost media. Yep. Really unfortunate, because man, all the people that get, like, I've heard, like, a lot of people get obsessed with, like, lost media videos, especially with, like, series videos, like, episodes of, like the pilot episodes of, like, Family Guy or stuff like that, but I don't know. Old Facebook games that were very popular, for me, they're a lot more relevant, and I'd very much appreciate it if someone could just, like, make them not lost media anymore, as opposed to, like, whoa, the pilot episode of Family Guy is no longer lost media. Cool. Versus someone actually remaking or just bringing back the original Dungeon Overlord. Woo! Yeah, baby! You know? Take care. Well, thank you for dropping by. Thank you, Embers. I hope you had a nice night. And take care of yourself, man. Thank you for lurking, man. Thanks for streaming, Wilt. It was nice seeing you. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, the Pixel Fox, for stopping by tonight. Always a pleasure to have you, man. Thank you, Obsidian Aurora, too. Hopefully you have a very good night tonight, and hopefully you get everything sorted out with medicine. Hopefully you fill up on food, too. And let's see. Taco Link as well. I remember you were here. Thanks for your comments, as always, man. I always appreciate them, man. And thank you, Dollface Doodle, for dropping on by. I appreciate you, too. Hopefully everything goes all right figuring out that board game. Hopefully my thumbnail, that thumbnail actually took a surprising amount of work. I'm very proud of it. I'm not sure how often I'll use this. I'm not sure how much I'll return to this well of going through stories, but I think, like, every once in a blue moon, it could be a nice change of pace, you know? You're welcome. Hell yeah. Alrighty. Every once in a while. I don't think I'll do this too often. Maybe, like, once every month or every couple of months at most, probably. I don't know. It's too different from my usual stuff. And I feel it, man. I had to constantly drink throughout this stream, not to kill my throat. So it's very hard on the throat. I'm not sure. I can pull stories from elsewhere too, you know, as well. It doesn't have to be this forum. It would be a small change as well to the thumbnail. But I'm not sure how often. But every once in a while, I'll keep thinking of other ideas for streams I can do beyond just playing games. I do like playing games, and I do appreciate you guys showing up for them. But I always think about, like, maybe, you know, other things I could do beyond just React Slop, because I'm not the type of person to come to do React Slop. It takes me a long time to form my opinions on things. I usually sit on things for a while before I decide how I feel. I look at the thing itself, I read what people are saying, I read what people argue back, I think on it for a while, go back to other things. I'm not one to, like, come to my opinions immediately, and that's, like, the whole crux of React Slop, is to immediately judge things on your opinions immediately, you know? Yeah. Anyway, yes, goodbye. See you next time. Yeah. You and Quill, I bet. Yeah, look, there he is. Fine. Have a good night, everybody. And even if you were in chat today, maybe you were just lurking around, maybe you popped in stream for a minute or two, maybe you're watching this on the VOD, crazy enough. Or maybe you liked, subscribed, followed, or any other little bit of support. I appreciate you very deeply. I hope you all have a very wonderful night. This has been Wilt Duck, your storybook traveler, and my assistant Quill. And the story will continue tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone, and goodbye. Goodbye. Wait, I don't want to be in here. I want to be in here. Goodbye.